9BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Gene's a big timer, a social misfit. Clueless to the title of the biggest bus gag hits. Chuck Munchie's goons have the last say. So thanks for your time, Mr. Mayo. Danger likes his cold ones and he likes his bears. But this is Rochester, cute Francesa.
Oh, who cares?
He's critical of Sean, he's critical of Alan. Of course he married Sandy, cause she's Italian. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
Did we have any terrible takes in the last 24 hours? Terrible takes.
Terrible takes.
Not good takes, not hot takes, terrible takes.
Timmy was on his best behavior yesterday.
No terrible takes?
No, he came in well prepared, did a good job, didn't go out of his way to inflame it. No, actually, his terrible... He didn't back off. He said, Taron Johnson's a good player. I don't understand
My
what
imitation of terrible take Timmy here as he's writing up his notes for the show. Josh Allen, average. Buffalo Bills, 8-win team. Ice cream is delicious. Just terrible takes. Just like obvious, terrible take Timmy, who was in here yesterday. And a big thank you to the one and only terrible take Timmy for filling in yesterday here in the sports bar. I'm Danger. That's Battaglia. We are back. We are so back, and we are ready for Saturday and Sunday football action. Of course, getting underway tomorrow with the college football playoff. The NFL wildcard weekend gets underway as well. We're here to talk about all of it this afternoon.
Yeah, and for folks watching right now on the YouTube stream, this is like when two women show up at a cocktail party and they're wearing the same dress.
We're both cold.
Yeah.
Just a couple of old guys.
No, it's a meat locker here in Danger. Like the commercial that runs on our station. Heat, your neighbors have it, and you can too. Call Crossfield today. Like, yeah, we got to get some heat here. Can somebody help us?
Well, you know what? Maybe we need to get Derek the Pizza Dude on the case here. I don't know if we forgot to pay our rent.
No, apparently what Dan DeLorean told me was, hey, nothing I can do. Oh, boy. So,
I love that. I love
yeah.
that there's nothing I can do excuse.
Yeah, new landlords.
It's the equivalent of somebody sending you the shrugging emoji. Like, okay, there's something we can do. Can we, if it's the new landlords, can we reach out to the new landlords and say,
yeah.
Hey guys, we don't have any heat in some of our studios, right? We're like, I'm seriously, I'm thinking of putting my coat on. It is chilly in here, and yeah, on the YouTube channel at the Fan Rochester, both Gene and I wearing our old man hats. Just trying to stay warm.
We've been talking about this, and yesterday, Emerson head coach Mike Leone was scheduled to come in studio. He called an audible. We did it over the phone, which is fine, but he probably was like, I spend my days in an ice rink. Your guy's studio is cold. I'd rather do it in here.
And I'm glad that while I was out yesterday, you guys got to the burning heat of the matter with our guest yesterday, Matt Preen. I'm sure you talked plenty of Bills, but really all I wanted to know is what's going on with the cold plunges.
I'm concerned about you. Like this idea of going outside and sitting in cold water in the month of January. Dude, are you a masochist? Happy New Year, bud.
What's up? How are you?
You sitting in a tub of cold water outdoors in January, are you a masochist?
So, sometimes you got to challenge yourself a little bit, Gino. Going into cold water in, freezing temperatures is challenging, and I got to tell you, pretty miserable. But there's a lot of health benefits I've been reading about, so I want to kind of check it out. I've done 4 cold plunges now. I did a couple in the 40-degree range, and then I did one in the 30-degree range, and I think I went a little bit too quick there to the 30 because that was tough. So I'm back up in the 40s. We're going to do the 40s for a couple weeks, and then we'll see. I see an immediate, energy boost, mood improvement, all that kind of stuff. But to be honest with you, the big reason why I do it, inflammation, man. I work out a lot. I play a lot of basketball. My knees, my calves, my thighs, everything back hurts all the time. So if that could help mitigate some of that, That's what I'm really in it for.
You just can't just go stand outside, Matt, maybe without a jacket. Wouldn't that provide the same benefit?
No, I'm sorry.
No.
You got to get after it, Gino. Like, why don't you come over to the house? We'll do a little cold plunge. I think that we'll do big numbers on YouTube.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to see me in a tub in the summer or the winter or any time there.
I think what Perino is missing is the idea that if you were to do a cold plunge today, it actually kind of feels nice because the water is warmer than the air temperature.
The studio here, I think you're thinking about this.
Oh, I love this. I'm all about it.
Well, it means you have to go buy the proper apparatus, though, right?
All you need you buy them on Amazon. They sell like these little outdoor tubs that you just kind of quickly assemble. You can tear it down easily.
How do you prevent the water from freezing? I don't even know how this all
works.
works.
I think that's the point. You want
Yeah.
ice water, and
Yeah.
then when it freezes, you crack the ice, and then you go into the cold water, and you sit in there for as long as you're able to sit in there, or you could take the cold shower. But this is next level. I love when I hear of people doing the cold plunge thing. Perino did it. Trapasso did it. I know the polar plunge is a thing that happens every year, and I've done that a couple of times. And every time I've done it, I feel the same way. I'm like, what he's kind of saying is your energy is up. You increase, your mood increases almost immediately because you know that you just did the worst thing you're gonna do all day long mentally. It's like, all right, well, that's done. That was not fun.
I'm not buying the mood thing. I think there's other things that you could do that would improve your mood, including having a nice box of wine. But
that's an attitude adjustment more than a mood adjuster. That's an
Yeah.
attitude adjuster. That's going to change your attitude. I was in Virginia Beach yesterday.
How was it down there?
I'm shocked at exactly what it takes for them to cancel school because they were off yesterday. The kids were off from school in Virginia because of that storm that went through. And when I tell you that it was the first time in 3 months that I've worn sunglasses, sunny blue skies. It was cold. It was like 35, 40 degrees, something like that. But sunny blue skies. And I'm like, school's out. This is a snow day for them. And there wasn't any snow on the ground. There was ice in the morning, in the early morning hours. There was icy roads. They're just not equipped for it. And I also learned something else in talking about the Cotton Bowl here. And it looks like Dallas, much like they were with the Super Bowl with the Packers and the Steelers all those years ago at AT&T Stadium, there's a bit of a weather issue, a weather concern for tomorrow night's game. And they're putting out statements, and they're talking about how this isn't going to be an issue. And they've already brined the roads. And that was the phrase that they used. They've brined the roads. And I'm like, are the roads made out of meat? What are we talking about? We've brined the roads. You've salted the roads? So I guess they
don't have the infrastructure.
They're just not equipped.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
They're just not equipped. But I did learn, because when I made a comment about that last night on X, at the Fan of Rochester, by the way, at AKA Mike Danger or at Gene Battaglia, one of my friends from my hometown in northern Minnesota said, "Oh, dude, get with the program. Brining the roads has been a thing for a while now." I'm like, what can we call it something other than brining? Because it almost is like a tease. Like, I want to brine a piece of meat and throw it on the smoker, but I can't do it because it's too damn cold outside.
I know there is a certain temperature where the salt wouldn't work, so that you throw down sand in some places. Is that what they're talking about?
In Minnesota, that's what I grew up on. Is they would just sand the roads. They wouldn't salt the roads. They would put sand down everywhere, and you would have a little bit of traction. But he said that this is more of like a combination that you do to pre-treat the roads, and the snow and the ice doesn't stand a chance, but it's hell on your cars. I'm like, well, yeah, welcome to Western New York, where we salt everything to the point where I've got a herd of deer around my car every night when I go into the High Falls garage.
I find it. Was that the last time there was a Super Bowl in Dallas? I'll have to look that up, because I remember that. That was Packers and Steelers, and everyone complained about it because the Metroplex was not ready for this, and all the activities were so spread out.
And you couldn't get anywhere. The roads were treacherous.
Right, and it's like they weren't actually ready for it. And I wonder if that kind of factors in. Even Jerry can't buy himself extra Super Bowls.
Well, if they're brining the roads, apparently everything will be okay. But, yeah, the sun was out. It was cold, but it wasn't like they're just not equipped, I guess, is the bottom line. They're just not as equipped. So we can take pride in the fact that, this weather, even if it is a meat locker in our studio today. You're wearing your hat. I'm wearing mine.
Dude,
we are equipped for this.
You have, and I have friends in L.A. too, and I'm getting pictures and everything. It's horrible.
Oh, the wildfires.
Yeah, they canceled the Kings game tonight. Now because flights getting in and out, there's so much smoke down there.
Yeah.
So that's anybody who's got friends out there, we're thinking of you.
We got a great show lined up for you this afternoon. We're going to talk to our buddy Armando Salguero from Outkick. He stops by the Sports Bar 425.
So I remember this time last year we had Armando on, and I kind of stepped in it a little bit, asking straight up on the air, hey, who'd you vote for the MVP? And no. He's not allowed. They're not allowed to. So we're not going to ask him that question. We can't ask him that question, but we can ask him for his thoughts on this race. And we can ask him certainly about these playoff matchups, and we will ask Armando's take about the Buffalo Bills. Is this finally the year for Buffalo? Well, step number one would be beat Denver. Armando Salguero, our good friend from Outkick, coming up at the 4 o'clock hour.
And joining us later this hour from the BetQL Network and his show, Send It In, PJ Glasser, Odyssey Sports Betting Insider, stopping by with his favorite plays, not just from the college football semifinals, but also wild card weekend in the NFL.
Yeah, we will hit on all these. My gosh, it's a tonight, no football, and then we get football Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. 5 straight days of playoff football. Penn State, Notre Dame, a game for the ages. We'll get his thoughts on this matchup from Miami tomorrow night. PJ Glasser, your host, is Send It In. First time here in 2025. We get to talk to PJ.
Absolutely looking forward to that. And Insider Calls are presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app. Also, be sure to check out Send It In on the BetQL Network. You can find that on YouTube, on Twitch, wherever you get your shows. That's Send It In with our buddy PJ Glasser stopping by here in about 15 minutes or so. All right, it's good that we have Salguero joining us today because, the coaching carousel. This is a week where, coaches get fired, coaches line up interviews, you start to hear rumors, who's talking to who's getting requested for which jobs, and there's no shortage of that to uncover today. But before we talk about some of that, there is a bit of Bills news today with Lewis Cine, their safety from the practice squad, getting claimed by Philadelphia. The Eagles picking up Lewis Cine, and the Bills adding a linebacker from Philadelphia to their practice squad. That's Tyreek Maddox-Williams, who is now in the Bills practice squad. I don't know if any of this means anything, but I just remember when Lewis Cine was picked up by the Bills, and the officer was like, oh, well, that's a guy with early round talent that just hasn't materialized, and we haven't really seen him. See what I did there?
Yeah,
on the field.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about that all that much, Danger. I don't know if you're leaning on Lewis Cine, and these are the rules, right? Practice squad isn't the real roster. At any point, you can sign any player from anybody else's practice squad. They don't even have to agree to. When you sign as a practice squad player, you agree that any team can claim you, and that's what happened here. And I'm not overly concerned about that. What I am concerned is this. Kick return to Brandon Condrington, not available to practice today. It's a soft tissue thing. This is an injury that happened, come to find out, in the game against the Patriots. And sure, it's only Wednesday, and today was only a walkthrough. But Perino got me good yesterday. Danger. If you listen to that whole interview, if you were with us yesterday at 325, I asked him the question, okay, who is going to be the kick returner here if it can't be Brandon Condrington? Gene, this is the reason they signed Micah Hyde. Like, okay, the tongue in cheek there. Yeah. No, it's an opportunity for somebody else to, probably Hardy. They might give an opportunity to here.
And this is Sean McDermott earlier on that Bills injury report that short of that Codrington injury is clean.
So today, at least, Jamarcus Ingram will not be here. He's excused for a personal family situation. Brandon Codrington will not practice. He's dealing with a hamstring. And then everyone else will practice, including Amari. Amari's back, and he'll practice. So walkthrough style practice for us today, and the time is yours.
How worrisome is the Codrington situation since he is your primary return guy?
Yeah, no, he's been our primary return guy all year, so we'll deal with it. We'll figure it out one way or the other. If he can go, great. If he can't, then we'll figure something out.
Terrell Bernard is trending in the right direction. What are you expecting for him?
He'll be good to go. Yeah, at this point, he's good to go.
McDermott's got a little Belichick there to him, and also a little Andy Reid.
Andy Reid, the time
is yours is a great Andy Reidism.
Time is yours, and who's going to return kicks?
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
No.
I'm not going to tell you.
I'm not telling you is the answer. And today being the walkthrough of like, hey, how come nobody knows? It's closed to the media. You can't. So yeah, and if you're a Bills fan, you're probably fine with that. You're on a need-to-know basis, basically, and we'll find out if it's not Condrington who will be back there.
I didn't realize it, but today is Wednesday. You know what that means. I've got 57 seconds, Sean McDermott, talking about Denver's defense. It's time for a round of McDermott McLies.
I'm thinking about this because now it's serious.
Mm-hmm.
Now
it doesn't
it's
sound like
serious.
he's in a jovial mood. He's
now,
down to business.
If you're new to the show, we have some fun with this, okay? Coaches lie, but if McDermott here is going to stretch the truth, let's say I haven't heard this, you haven't heard this. If he's going to say this is one of the best defenses of all time, that's a lie. So stretching the truth, we count as a lie. Mm-hmm. That being said, you're going to hear what I predict, just a lot of complimentary things and a lot of roundabout talk. I'm going to put the over-under at 1.
Ooh.
1. It's playoff time, Danger. We're not lying today.
Here's Sean McDermott on Denver's defense.
Listen, they're a really good defense. Vance Joseph has been a great defensive coordinator for a number of years, and they're talented, as I said. So, we've got to make sure that we've got everything buttoned up, the details we need in order to execute at the level we're going to need to execute at. And then we got to take it one play at a time and take what they give us at the same time, because it's a heck of a challenge.
How impressive has their pass rush been going up against your team that's given up the fewest sacks? How impressive is the Broncos pass rush?
Yeah, like I said earlier, they're top team in the NFL in terms of rushing the passer. I think like one in every drop back passes turns into a sack. That's what the stats say. So you turn the film on, it pops off the film at how well they come off the ball. And how fast they play. Like I said, extremely talented. Then they have a number one corner in Surtain back there, and usually when you have that type of that formula, if you will, you've got a strong defense on your hands, and that's the case in this situation.
It's a push.
Yes!
It's a push.
No push. I called it. 1.
You said 1. That was exactly
1.
what it was.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
I feel like I'm in a midseason, right ready to go. Playoff form here. Yeah, a lot of cliches stuck in there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. We'll have the game for you Sunday afternoon, 1 o'clock. Pre-game coverage gets underway at 9.
We should also mention Terrell Bernard, good to go.
Yeah.
So, there's no
when you
issue
look
there,
at the
so.
injury report this playoff season versus last year at this time, you got to be feeling pretty good about the Buffalo Bills.
Well,
health-wise.
Yeah, week 18 last year, you needed the second half to get in, just to get in, much less win the division, and that's what happened, and then you're scrambling. This was a quasi-bye week. I mean, Monday was very strange. We didn't play the Italian music because technically it wasn't a win, but nobody was upset. It was not blame assessment Monday. It was really one of those, okay, we're on to the playoffs. It was a time to rest players, and I think the positive thing here, too, Danger, is Amari Cooper being back. We didn't know what that was about. It wasn't in the building Monday, but that's good that he's back at practice today.
So around the NFL, more coaches lining up for interviews, and with the Lions and the Chiefs each having a bye, their coordinators are allowed to take interviews. So Ben Johnson being selective, he's narrowed it down to 4 teams that he was going to interview with. The Patriots, the Bears, I want to say the Raiders are in there, and there's a 4th team that I'm forgetting. But and then Aaron Glenn, same deal. He's going to take on a bunch of interviews. In the last 24 hours, the Niners have moved on from their defensive coordinator, Nick Sorensen, which obviously everybody then points the finger at Robert Saleh and says, oh, bring him back to San Francisco. Well, Robert Saleh come back to be the defensive coordinator. I don't know. He's interviewing with the Jags. I can tell you that the Jaguars are interviewing Robert Saleh. Good luck with that.
Did Trent Baalke and Robert Saleh cross paths in Jacksonville?
In San Francisco?
I'm sorry, in San Francisco.
That's a good question. I'm not really sure. I could tell you that you do have a capable defensive mind in San Francisco with Brandon Staley, who was there this season but wasn't officially the defensive coordinator, so you could very easily just promote him if you feel like that's the guy. Saleh interviewing with the Jags. You've got Pete Carroll interviewing with the Bears tomorrow. That's interesting. The Giants offensive coordinator Mike Kafka is going to interview with the Bears as well. The Saints as well tomorrow. The Jets and the Raiders have both requested to interview Chiefs defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo. For all that Spags has done in Kansas City as DC, it's kind of funny that he hasn't gone back to being a head coach. He wasn't a great head coach, but a really good D.C. He's got a couple of interviews lined up, or at least requests to interview from the Jets and from the Raiders. And with the Raiders, Gino, don't worry, this isn't happening.
No.
You did not.
May I read? May I read the report here?
Feel free.
This is from NFL Network's Tom Pelissero. Multiple. Danger. What's the definition of multiple?
More than one.
Okay, thank you. Multiple NFL teams have inquired about whether legendary coach Bill Belichick would reconsider his move to college football, including the Raiders, whose new minority owner, Tom Brady, spoke recently with his old coach, per league sources. All right, let's review. If the old man comes back to the NFL, you are returning that box of wine to me, and you're paying up your bet. Because the bet was beginning of the season. You're not paying attention. You're not listening to me.
No, I am paying attention. I'm trying to find an alternate report that says he's from not Diana Rossini.
Diana Rossini
he ain't going anywhere.
Okay, well.
He's in Jersey today recruiting for North Carolina. He's not going to the Raiders.
Look, if it were true, would he really say that he picks up the phone with Diana? Yep. No, of course not. You're going to say it's not true until it's true. It's really one of those backdoor interviews. It'll be one of those we need to kind of talk to everybody first and fulfill our duties with the Rooney Rule, and then, hey, coach, here would be the number.
Do you think that I mean, you could kind of sense how this went down, right? Mark Davis is excited because he's got Tom Brady now. He's hey, let's get Belichick in here. Come on, you can get him in. Like, for all we know, Belichick and Brady don't really have a great relationship. Like, what makes Mark Davis think that Tom Brady is going to be able to recruit his former coach to come play for a dysfunctional organization that keeps cycling through coaches and quarterbacks?
I always look at Brady's father, how he said disparaging things. I think Brady... That's why he's a pro, Danger. He always took the high road with this, whatever was behind closed doors. I mean, two egos like that for years and years. But that being said, I would be shocked if he went to the Raiders for many different reasons. Top of the list, Mark Davis doesn't have money. He's cheap. He'd have to pay $10 million, Belichick would have to pay $10 million to get out of his contract with North Carolina, and Belichick wouldn't do that, okay, unless the Raiders were kind of fronting that up front. So, yeah, that's one reason. But I'm going to side with Tom Pelissero on this until every.
No, I'm sure you will. Don't worry.
Answer my question. Did you open the box yet?
I haven't gotten to it yet. No,
okay,
I'm a box deep already. I've got it's on deck.
Needs to stay in the basement in your wine cellar until.
No, I'm cracking it open as soon as it's time.
All right, then. And
don't worry, Gene. If I have to repay the bet, I'll do what you did. I'll go find the cheapest bottle of box wine to repay the bet. Thanks, appreciate that. How was the cab that I got you? The Bada box that was actually like a decent quality box wine.
That's on deck.
Okay,
that is on deck.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah.
We're gonna get to PJ Glasser, the host of Send It In. We'll get some winners in the college football semifinals, which get underway tomorrow night in Miami, and Super Wild Card Weekend in the NFL. We'll get all of PJ's favorite plays. You can join us anytime this afternoon. Our lines are open. The Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line is 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street in East Rochester. GoodSmokeBBQ.com.
You're listening to
update.
Bills linebacker Terrell Bernard good to go. This is according to head coach Sean McDermott. Wide receiver Amari Cooper back at practice today. Kick returner Brendan Codrington did not practice. He's got a hamstring injury. McDermott on the Sean Payton offense.
Well, there's a lot of intricacies to his offense. There's a lot of different personnel groupings used, and he does a great job putting his players in position. And as was mentioned earlier, with a two-dimensional offense, and they're tough to defend for a lot of reasons. One of which is what he's able to do from a play caller standpoint.
Bills favored by 8.5. We'll talk to PJ Glasser. Your host is Send It In on the BetQL Network coming up next year in the Sports Bar. Devin Levi, Isak Rosane, they've been named to the AHL All-Star Game. Calgary's game tonight in LA postponed due to the wildfires. Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Pull a stool and join us. 585-866-4FAN. 866-432-6. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
We're joined now by the host of Send It In, Odyssey Sports Betting Insider, PJ Glasser. Insider calls presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app. And PJ, I believe we've passed the statute of limitations on wishing you a happy new year, but we've got lots of winning to do in the next 5 to 6 days. Welcome to 2025, the college football semifinals and Super Wild Card Weekend. Let's get after it, buddy.
Let's do it, fellas. Yeah, it's all good. I'm not Larry David. I'm not, too harsh with when we wish each other a happy new year. So all good. Good to talk to you guys again. Hope you had a good holiday.
We did, PJ, and boy, 5 straight nights of playoff football, one way or another, starts tomorrow night. So let's start off with the college game, and what a treat. 2 big programs, Notre Dame, Penn State, Miami. Here were the Irish taking care of Georgia, but what do you make of that with Georgia not having their starting quarterback? Do you like the Irish to get to the championship game? Or is this finally James Franklin taking his team to a place that they haven't been to in decades as well? How do you view this matchup?
Yeah, these two teams are even, guys, and the line's showing that. Notre Dame 1.5, total 45.5, so it should be a low-scoring, close one-possession game. I like Notre Dame. I've liked the Irish to make the title game from the beginning. I thought they'd beat Indiana, Georgia. I thought that if it was Penn State, I thought they could get by them too. The line is telling you that Penn State's probably the right side. We obviously just watched Notre Dame beat Georgia, and I think the perception around Notre Dame has kind of changed in the eyes of a lot of people. But Penn State, for so long under Franklin, have kind of been getting these weird spreads. They were 3.5 against Oregon. They've been 3.5 a number of times when they played at home against Michigan and Ohio State, and it just doesn't feel like they really cover these lines. So I do like Notre Dame. I think if you want to bet Penn State, the angle that I think is interesting, and maybe look to bet them in the first quarter or the first half, just because you look at the two teams that have beaten Georgia this season, Bama and Ole Miss, they lost their following games. Bama lost to Vandy after beating Georgia, and Ole Miss lost to Florida after beating Georgia. And we talk about this all the time when I'm on with you guys. Especially in college, letdown spots and emotional hangovers. And, you don't expect teams to have letdowns in the college football playoff, but, that's the biggest win as Notre Dame's had in the last 30 years. Beating a team like Georgia, maybe they are a little sluggish at the start of that game. So Penn State, who started hot in the playoff, up 28-0 at half on SMU, 17-7.5 against Boise. I could see them start well in this game too. So maybe first half, Penn State, full game, Notre Dame, kind of the way I'm approaching this game.
I just love what we've gotten so far out of the college football playoff. And I know some people will complain that the teams that had the buys are all out or that the games haven't been that competitive. When you look at what's left and what we're going to end up having in the actual championship game with these 4 blue blood programs, it's going to be fantastic. And Friday we get to see if Ohio State can remain high tempo and keep their momentum that they have after dispatching of Oregon with relative ease. Texas kind of lucky to be in this spot when you consider how that Arizona State game ended for them. How do you see this one going on Friday, PJ?
I like Texas plus the points, guys. I think Ohio State wins, but I think 6 is too many. Before the Rose Bowl, when Ohio State played Oregon in the Peach Bowl, before Texas played Arizona State, the look-ahead lines were like 1.5, 2 for Ohio State, and now we're all the way up to 6. And, guys, I think for this late in the season, for a line to jump that many points, I just think is too much. You know, if people don't think Ohio State's the best team in the country before the playoffs started, like they haven't been watching. I know they didn't look good against Michigan, but they've always been capable of this. They've had the most talent. They have the best players, and they're just finally starting to put it all together. But, like, we've seen these teams play 16 games, and for a line to move that much, I just think is too much of an overreaction to what we saw in the previous round. So if there is a team to stop Ohio State with the way that they've looked the past couple weeks, it is Texas. They have one of the best defenses in the country. They get after the quarterback. Their pass defense was number 1 heading into the playoff. They have the best corner in college football. So they're the team on paper that I think has as good a chance as anybody at slowing down Ohio State. And I like Sark, guys, in these kind of games. You know, when he knows he's going to need his offense to play well, he normally puts them in good spots. Quinn Ewers is obviously going to have to play well also, but I just think 6 is too many points. I think these are the 2 best teams in the country, and I think we're going to get ourselves a heck of a game. So I like Ohio State to win by like 3 points, 4 points. I'll take Texas plus 6.
PJ Glasser, you can catch weekdays on the BetQL Network, the show Send It In. Let's go to the Saturday matchups in the NFL Super Wild Card Weekend. The official slot of the Houston Texans being 3:30 local time. The Texans taking on the Chargers. And the Chargers, the road favorite here. We would consider this a upset for the Texans if they win at home. I mean, PJ, is it just as simple as you look at the head coaches, I would lean towards Harbaugh. If you look at the quarterbacks, I would lean toward Herbert. You do have the Chargers, though, with this history of charging, but again, it's a new head coach. How do you view this matchup, Chargers-Texans?
Guys, my favorite stat of the week is in this game, okay? So since 2017, teams that did not make the playoffs the previous year and are a favorite in their game in the wild card round are 1-14 against the spread.
Wow.
So I think that is crazy, right? 1-14. So again, teams like the Chargers who haven't made the playoffs, they're a favorite in the wild card round, 1-14. And I think that makes a lot of sense, right? Because obviously the team is they exceeded expectations. They're having a great year. They're probably playing a team that went into the playoffs not playing all that great, and we're overvaluing them. And, Gene, look, you bring up great points. They have the better head coach. They probably have the better quarterback. But it feels a lot like last year's Texans playoff game, guys, doesn't it? When Cleveland and Joe Flacco came into town, and they had that magical run going, and everybody loved Cleveland, and the Texans had a great performance. And I like the Texans at home, but that stat for me, I'm not one that usually makes bets off of stats, but that one's pretty hard to ignore, and I think it makes a lot of sense. I like the Texans +3, and I think they win the game outright. So I like that upset.
Remind me to tell PJ this stat that I'm obsessed with before we get off the line with him, but I know you're in the Baltimore area, and you're going to be paying close attention to Saturday night's game between the Ravens and Steelers. Tell us why, at I believe 9.5 right now that the Steelers are getting, why we should look at the underdog at this number.
I mean, guys, I feel like too many people are forgetting that this is Ravens-Steelers. You know, I understand Baltimore might be the best team in the NFL. I get they're playing great. They're peaking at the right time. The Steelers have lost 4 straight. You know, they're struggling entering the playoffs. But it's like I listen to all these people talk about these games, and people are, betting Baltimore at 9.5, 10. Guys, this is the largest spread in the history of this series. This game is always decided by one score. It's always 3 points. It's always 4 points. These two teams in their last 20 times that they've played, the underdog is 16-3-1 against the spread. And in the last 20 times that they've played, only 4 of those games have been decided by 7 or more points. So I know they just played 3 weeks ago. I know Baltimore beat them by 17. But again, it feels like we're taking a lot out of just the final score and how close that game really was. When Lamar got picked off by Minka, it was a 7-point game before Russ threw the pick 6 to Marlon Humphrey. There were a lot of things that went the Ravens' way. So, I mean, for me, guys, it's Steelers all day +10. I feel like we're kind of all forgetting that, like, the Ravens have let us down in the playoffs the last couple of years. They're playing their division rival. I'll take the 10 with the Steelers all day.
Yeah, we're talking to PJ Glasser, host of Send It In. We'll save the Bills-Broncos for last year, PJ. Gosh, I'm old enough to remember, PJ, that where you had a quarterback, particularly in a postseason game, with an injury, question mark, there would be no line. We would just say no line. But, data and, they want you to play here. So here you have the Philadelphia Eagles. We don't know about Jalen Hurts. Does it make that much of a difference, PJ, or is this one you're staying away from altogether? What I'm looking at right now in BetQL, it's Green Bay getting 4.5.
Of all the games in Wild Card Weekend, guys, this is probably the one I have is my least opinion of the game. I don't really have a strong feel either way. Gene, a lot of it's what you said. The quarterback left the game against Chicago. Hurts, obviously we haven't seen him since he suffered the concussion against Washington. I like Green Bay if I had to pick it, plus the 4.5. The reason being, if you look at the Packers' schedule this season, if you take away Week 18 with the Bears, before that, they were 0-5 this season against the Lions, the Vikings, and the Eagles. They could not beat the top three teams in the NFC. They were 11-0 against everybody else, right? But the thing is, even though they went 0-5 against Minnesota, Detroit, and Philly, 4 of those 5 games were decided by 5 points or fewer. Both Minnesota games, they lost by 2. They lost to Philly by 5. And then the Detroit game on Thursday night, they lost by 3 points. So even though Green Bay hasn't beaten those teams, they have been playing them tight. So I would lean towards Packers 4.5 because we're getting, a nice number there. But yeah, Gene, it's tough for me to really like Green Bay or really like Philly just because, like you said, both quarterbacks are banged up. Both teams are certainly going to want to run the football. And I kind of like both of these teams. I think these are the 2 teams that might have the best chance of challenging Detroit. I think whoever wins this game, if it's not the Lions, I think these are the 2 teams you could look at and maybe making the Super Bowl.
All right, PJ, here's the stat that has been living rent-free in my brain from the moment I heard it. I can't let it go.
Give it to me, Danger.
And I'm nervous that it's going to affect how I pick these games because I so believe in this stat. Since the Four Falls of Buffalo, since the Jim Kelly era Bills in the early 90s, no quarterback has made their debut in a Super Bowl, lost that game, and ever returned to the Super Bowl.
Wow.
All right.
Any
quarterback who has made the Super Bowl in his made his appearance in the Super Bowl, his first appearance in the Super Bowl, and lost, hasn't even returned to the Super Bowl. So that would eliminate Jared Goff from making it to the Super Bowl this year. That would eliminate Jalen Hurts from making it to the Super Bowl this year. And as we look to Sunday night, are you prepared for Baker Mayfield to make a trip to New Orleans as they begin their campaign hosting the Commanders on Sunday night, PJ?
Guys, the Bucs are an interesting team, aren't they? Baker had a lot better season than I thought he would, and they're a really good offensive team at home. I do like them in this game. I like the Bucs -3. I think right now Washington, they're a little bit overrated. They're on a 4-game win streak, and they're starting to look like the team it feels like that we saw earlier on in the year. But guys, think about their last 4 wins, right? You could throw the Dallas win out this past Sunday if you want because Jaden Daniels didn't play the second half. But the Saints game, they needed a failed 2-point conversion to win that. Philadelphia, Devontae Smith catches that pass. They lose that. And then the Atlanta game went to overtime, and they could have lost that game. So I get Washington is coming into the playoffs hot. They've won 4 in a row. They're playing good football. But, they very easily could have lost all those games. And now they're going up against a Tampa team that I think is better than Washington is. They're at home. More playoff experience on that roster. So I like the Bucs here -3. I think they get the job done against Washington.
PJ Glasser, our host, the Monday night matchup, the 4-5 matchup. And PJ, when we came back on Monday, it was one of those, wait a second, what is Sean McVay doing here? Their seat isn't locked up. Why would you just kind of throw away, instead of being the 3, now you're the 4, and you're like, oh, wait a second. He actually likes this path, perhaps, against the Vikings at home, and certainly he knows Jared Goff in Detroit. And you just threw us that stat that is just kind of mind-blowing. Let's just see if I can spit this back at you correctly. Since 2017, the team that makes the wild card round that wasn't in the playoffs last year, that is favored in this game is what, 1-14?
1-14.
1-14.
Yep,
and now you have Minnesota favored by 1. Does this mean, hey, go with the Rams?
Certainly does. I'm on the Rams, guys. Now Minnesota, they're 14-3. They've only lost to 2 teams this year. They lost to Detroit twice, and then they lost to this Rams team. And I think kind of the common denominator between the Rams and the Lions is that both teams want to run the ball, and that's how you attack Minnesota's defense. Even though they have the second best run defense in the NFL, if you go one-dimensional on them, they also lead the NFL in picks, and that allows Flores to do what he wants to do and disguise all his different blitzes and all his different looks. So the Rams are going to do that. They're going to lean on Kyron Williams. They're going to run the ball. And then when they do bring the blitz, then you got Puka and Cooper Kupp, who I think are going to win their one-on-one matchup. So I just think it's a bad matchup for the Rams. And, guys, doesn't it just feel like Minnesota is like one of these baseball teams that's in a race all year? They're like a 100-win baseball team, right, going back and forth with their division rival. They lose out on the division. They get the wild card round, and then it's just like, boom, their season's over. That's how I kind of see it for Minnesota. Like, great year. You had the 1 seed available to you. You lose that, and then you go on the road just like that. 14-3, your season's over. And it is pretty telling that a 14-3 team is in pretty much a pick-em against the Rams. So I do like the Rams in this game, guys. I think they get the job done.
Viking fans know what you're saying all too well, PJ. We avert our gaze now and we shift over to the Bills hosting the Broncos in the early window on Sunday. It's a game we've been talking about all week. Denver getting greater than a touchdown against Buffalo, and this is a Buffalo team that Denver beat in Buffalo just last season. Now, they didn't have Bo Nix, but what do you see and how do you handicap this one, PJ?
I actually like Buffalo, guys. I lay the 8.5 with the Bills. I know it's 9 right now. I think anything under 10 is a good bet with the Bills. My problem, if you're a Broncos fan or if you're going to back Denver in this game, is the things that they do well, the Bills can counteract that, and they also do well, right? So Denver had the most sacks in the NFL. Well, guess who was the team that gave up the least amount of sacks? That would be Buffalo. Who was number 1 in EPA yards per play on defense? Denver. Well, who was 2 in EPA yards per play on offense? That would be Buffalo. What does Denver do great on defense? Play man coverage. What does Josh Allen usually do very well against? Man coverage. So it's just one of these X's and O's matchups. It's like the things that have gotten Denver to the postseason, they're playing against arguably kind of their worst matchup in the Bills. So I think it's going to be a tough matchup for Denver. They obviously have a great head coach in Sean Payton. They got a good defense, even though I don't think it's a good matchup for them going up against the Bills. But it feels like Buffalo, I think they match up pretty well with the Broncos. So I do like the Bills in this game. I took a -8.5, and I think they're going to have a double-digit victory in this game.
Wow. The world will be unbelievable, PJ, if you get a Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen divisional. And full disclosure, you're Baltimore-based.
I am.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's the talk down there? Because everybody up here is like, well, it's Josh Allen for the MVP. Is it kind of vice versa down there that, wait a second, why wouldn't anybody not vote for Lamar as the MVP?
I mean, as you would expect, right? Like, obviously in the Baltimore area, they all think Lamar should win it. So I'm honestly sick of talking about it. I like whoever wins it. You know, they're both incredible players. I think it would be awesome to watch them go at it in the playoffs. And even though they've already voted for the award, you know, you kind of watch them go head-to-head again. And it would honestly be like, well, now one quarterback beat the other. So you kind of have your answer. But I think both are deserving. I've been on with you guys, and I said once Josh beat Detroit, I thought that was enough. You know, even though Lamar's got the stats, I think Josh, the year that he's had and the win over the number 1 seed in the AFC and the NFC, I think that's a pretty strong talking point. So look, what's great is Bills fans love Josh Allen as their quarterback, and Ravens fans love Lamar as their quarterback. So there's no wrong answer to who can win MVP.
And as far as Saturday night goes, PJ, I mean, you gave us your pick. You like the underdog because Pittsburgh's getting almost 10 points against Baltimore, and we know how Pittsburgh's looked here the last 4 weeks, but it is still Steelers-Ravens. Are you confident that the Ravens advance, or because this is the matchup that it is, we could see something shocking on Saturday?
I'm never confident when they play Pittsburgh, Danger. I never am. So I can't tell you that, I feel good. Like, they're definitely going to cruise like a lot of Ravens fans do. I think they're going to get the win. But I'm telling you guys, the Ravens Steelers is all about which way the ball bounces. Well, people that are listening to this, if you can remember one thing from this segment, just when you're sitting back Saturday night and you're watching Ravens Steelers, in the first 10 minutes of the game, you are going to know who's going to win, because there are going to be a couple fumbles. There's going to be a key drop pass. There's going to be a tip ball in the air that's either an interception or falls to the ground. And you'll know pretty quick which team gets the bounce, which team it's going to be one of their days, whoever gets the bounces. So that's why I just think it's crazy that everybody just kind of thinks the Ravens are going to roll them, because they always put the ball on the ground against Pittsburgh. They always fumble. It's just 3 weeks ago, they were able to recover it. Early on in the season, they weren't able to. So just as a Ravens fan, obviously, I hope it's just their day and they're able to kind of capitalize on Pittsburgh's mistakes and able to fall on theirs. But I'm telling you guys, first 10 minutes, there's going to be a couple plays that happen, and whoever kind of makes those mistakes that'll be the team that ends up winning.
Yeah, I mean, some of those Lamar Jackson losses, I think the one to Tennessee, again, that was earlier in his career, but it's kind of snowballing away from him. PJ, tell everybody about Send It In, what time they can catch you.
Yeah, guys, 1 to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. You can watch us on twitch.tv/BeckQL. We're on YouTube. You can search Odyssey Sports, watch us there as well. So no commercial breaks, rapid fire, a lot like this. We just run through all the games. We talk about it. So obviously a great time of the year, guys. And, I mean, what a week of sports. Like, we get 2 college football playoff games Thursday, Friday, and then 3 NFL playoff days with Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So it's going to be an epic week, guys. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, the couch meld is in effect starting tomorrow. It's going to be hard to
Absolutely.
get up and get out. PJ, appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoy the games this weekend, and we'll talk again next week.
Looking forward to it, guys. Yep, enjoy the games. Talk to you soon.
There
Thanks,
he
PJ.
is, the host of Send It In, Odyssey Sports Betting Insider, PJ Glasser. Insider calls presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app.
All right, Bills fans, does that kind of calm you down a little bit about this game? We will talk to a Bronco insider tomorrow. I'm going to reserve my judgment until the end of the week. But if Buffalo were to lose this game after this season, that's what makes the playoffs so great.
Yeah, of course. I mean, great season that we've been talking about since the summer. Like, the summer that when we thought that this was a team that might not make the postseason, they have overachieved this year. You could say that Sean McDermott should be a Coach of the Year candidate for the job he did this year with this Bills roster. Yet, if they lose, you know all the calls we're going to be getting on Monday.
Oh,
Fire this guy. He needs to go. Myopic McDermott needs to go. Blah, 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 blah.
Oh, we will, yeah. Like if you had to take the odds, who are we blaming? It's the coach. One of our good friends, Brian, writing in. My bold playoff prediction. Broncos beat the Bills because of some coaching error, and Sean McDermott gets fired. Prime Josh Allen quarterback is being wasted by this coach. He shrinks when the lights get bright. Now Brian is a Bronco fan.
Yeah,
He showed up to our Three Heads events.
Yeah.
And
Had that cool Atwater jersey.
Yeah, I
The
remember
throwback Atwater jersey.
Yeah, so
Sharp.
Brian, we know you're biased, but hey, the Broncos have had a great season. They come in loosey-goosey, and they don't have anything.
Not a lot of pressure.
No, but the one thing the Broncos don't do well is the one thing I think the Bills might be susceptible to on defense, and that's run the ball. Like Derrick Henry, I'm not worried about Lamar Jackson. I'm worried about Derrick Henry, okay? And any other team. Yes, Patrick Mahomes, he's great. Yeah. I'm worried about Isaiah Pacheco. Like, does Jaleel McLaughlin and Audric Estime and I don't know if Denver can take control of the game that way.
Well, we'll look forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun, and the aftermath is always a good time as well. Hopefully the aftermath on Monday is us celebrating with little Bruno Martino, a little Victory Monday here in the sports bar. But, yeah, we're prepared either way. And do you feel better after hearing PJ say he likes the Bills to win by double digits? My gut instinct told me immediately when we knew it was going to be the Broncos that was going to be the outcome of the game. and I think it was our buddy Josh Reed that pointed out, Broncos had 10 wins with really only one of those 10 being against a good team, Tampa Bay, early in the season. You don't want to count the win against Kansas City last week. That was backups. They lost to the other 4 playoff teams that they faced. They lost to Pittsburgh. They lost to the Chargers twice. They lost to Baltimore, and they lost to KC, full KC squad. They also lost to Seattle. They also lost to Cincinnati. So some, less than stellar losses there by the Broncos. And when you look at the Bills and who they've beaten, you just have to think, all right, well, the Bills are the better team. They're going to beat Denver. Yeah. They have to beat Denver, and they should do it with fairly convincing fashion.
One thing that, should have asked PJ about when handicapping this Vikings-Rams game. This coming across just now, actually, the NFL is monitoring the situation in California where this game could get moved because of the wildfires.
Yeah, really, really scary scenes out of L.A. right now, and we'll keep you posted on what we hear about any more. You said the Kings game tonight in NHL with Calgary has been canceled.
That's been postponed, yeah.
All right, we're going to get to Armando Salguero Outkick, and we'll talk a little bit about this weekend's Super Wild Card matchups and, just to get his take on the MVP race. We're not going to ask him who he voted for, but you could make the argument that there was more than 2 or 3 deserving candidates this year that made that vote a little bit more challenging, I'm sure, for the voters, more so than in years past. Armando joins us here in about a half an hour or so. We have time for your calls on the other side at 866-4FAN, 866-4326.
You're listening to The Sports Bar.
Welcome back to We the Hobby. You know what time it is? A little something special today. Oh, Nick. Is that a corn? That ain't no corn. What? That's a super corn! Oh, wow!
Visit us at 23 Arlington Street in Rochester.
9BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan. Rochester. An Odyssey sports station.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Bills are getting healthier as the walkthrough wrapping up today. Linebacker Terrell Bernard, good to go. Wide receiver Amari Cooper, bracket practice today. Kick returner Brandon Codrington did not practice. He has a hamstring pull. Head coach Sean McDermott talking about where Von Miller is at.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly healthier, removed another X amount of months removed from the injury, and, that frees you up a little bit more. So, I just appreciate how he continues to take it one day at a time.
Bills favored by 8.5. We'll talk to Armando Salguero from Outkick. He joins us later this hour. NHL tonight, Calgary's game in Los Angeles postponed due to the wildfires. Devin Levi, Isak Rosane, they've been named to the AHL All-Star game. The Amerks are back home Friday night against Utica. Gene Battaglia in the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
It's Wild Card Weekend as Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos come to Highmark.
Like I said, the challenge is a big challenge. Good football team with a Super Bowl winning coach and a team that's very talented across the board, all three phases.
There's a lot of things going in the Bills' direction in this matchup. They're rested at home. That place is going to be absolutely electric. So it's a good team, and you're not looking past them. It's all about this week. But I think the advantages are all on Buffalo's side.
Mike Danger.
There's definitely some threats. It's not as easy as what it would appear with the Steelers or the Patriots that we've had here in years past.
Gene Battaglia.
In the McDermott-Allen era, all these playoff games, is this the toughest opening opponent for Buffalo? And how do you see this playing out?
Yo, let's radio.
Nice radio.
Nice radio. 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Can we'll get to Armando Salguero from Outkick here in a couple few. We'll talk about the coaching carousel. We'll preview the wild card weekend. We'll even kind of get Armando's take on the MVP race. He joins us here in about 15, 20 minutes or so. My best intentions here before the holiday, before we got to Christmas, I'm scrolling through my feed, and I got hooked into a website that was like a video that was like, hey, look at this gift for the sports fan in your life. Look at this gift for the sports fan in your life. I'm like, maybe go check that out. And I found I have one brother-in-law who's a massive Penn State fan. Another brother-in-law is a massive Washington Commanders fan. And now my nephew, who just turned 12 on Monday, happy birthday, Vincent. He on Sunday, I should say. Love him so much, I forgot what day his birthday is. He's a Commanders fan, too. They went to the Falcons game, the Sunday night game a couple of weeks ago. Great game. And so he's hooked. And so I found them each, both my brothers-in-law, I found them each like the perfect fan gift from this website with the intention of surprising them on Christmas, saying, here, guys, for you. Thought of you. Enjoy these gifts.
Uh-oh. Where's this going?
What I didn't know was I was ordering these products from China. This website, not the USA. It's from China. I got them yesterday. I ordered them the early part of December. I got them yesterday. So now I'm like, okay, you've got two significant games for both of the teams that they love where their seasons could be over if I don't deliver these gifts to them in a timely fashion, because I want them to be able to have them prior to these big games. I wanted to have them before Christmas. Obviously, that didn't happen. So if I just drop them off tonight, they're not wrapped. Is that a bad thing that I didn't go through the process of putting them in a box, wrapping them? They're not wrapped in anything other than the bubble wrap that they were shipped in, because I want to deliver these with haste. Does that make me okay, or is that tacky? They were supposed to be Christmas gifts.
I want to ask two questions here.
Yeah.
Are you a guy?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know how to wrap presents, by the way.
And the person you're giving it to, are they a guy?
Yeah. No.
You're fine.
They don't care.
They don't care.
Not tacky.
You like, would you be like, oh, I really like this Bears thing I want to put in my bar,
just
but
didn't know,
you didn't wrap it. Come on.
I didn't know if there'd be any judgment. I mean, like when I say I don't rap, like I don't rap. I don't know how to wrap gifts. I've tried. I could probably do it. I could figure it out.
Oh, you haven't done the holiday gift bag?
Yeah, the holiday gift bag feels to me like easy as well. I would probably make my kids do it, but they came in while I was out of town yesterday, and I'm like, I can't wait to give these to them because if I wait until next week, their season's going to be over.
Yeah, and who knows how the world looks this time next year.
That's
right.
right.
You don't want to. Do people do that? Like, oh, I forgot to give them. Well, we'll just save this for next holiday.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even think about that because I was so excited to give them these gifts in time for the holidays before I realized, oh, crap, I ordered it from China. And it took forever to get here, and it was like stuck at customs for 2 weeks. I'm like, Jesus. So, okay, so you're saying guy code doesn't matter how it's presented.
Does not matter.
I could actually physically hand it to them, maybe even outside of the bubble wrap. I could even unwrap it and just say, here, I mean, that doesn't look like I just found it on the side of the road. Here you go. This is something I got for you.
Well, there is also a chance that, I don't know, maybe they listen to the show and they know this might be
trying to be
coming.
discreet.
Yeah,
I'm trying to be discreet. They know I'm going to drop it off tonight. I guess, I'm doing it one way or the other. I just didn't know if it was poor form because they were supposed to be Christmas gifts that I didn't really wrap them as Christmas gifts.
Well, how do you handle then? Because if I am watching a game with somebody that I don't really have a rooting interest and they're a friend, I kind of automatically want my friend to be happy.
That's
so,
right.
like that Buccaneer Commander game, if you're watching that with your brother-in-law and your nephew Vincent, they're both Commander fans, and I know you're saying Buccaneers are going to the Super Bowl. Woo. You want, after years of misery.
I'm rooting for Washington. I'm rooting for Washington, but I'm not going to be surprised if Tampa Bay wins.
And I know the guy you're talking about, too. I work with him. Like, I want Penn State. I could care less who wins Penn State, Notre Dame, other than the people I care about. My old man loves Notre Dame. And your brother-in-law and my friend likes Penn State, so I'd be happy who forever.
Flying to Miami tomorrow morning to go to the game, and I got to get this to him before he gets out of town so he can at least see, hey, this was a gesture that I had planned for Christmas, but I'm an idiot, and I ordered it from China, and therefore I got it yesterday.
Now, that rule applies for most. I just want to know why you and others, when it comes to the Mets, you're like, I feel like you're always kind of anti-Met when we get to that point. Why is that, Danger? Why? What did I do to you?
It's not you. It's Mets fans. We just don't like Mets fans. I don't know. I keep going back to Catalana talking about Mets, his description of Mets fans and, you have your cute little High School Musical thing. What was really, you've got one on everybody because you predicted exactly what would happen last Major League Baseball postseason.
So today, at least, Jamarcus Ingram will not be
that's not
here.
it. I'm sorry. That is not what I was looking for. Oh, mislabeled. I apologize for that. I was going to play the clip of Catalana talking about your Mets doing their cute High School Musical routine, rallying around Grimace, and you actually predicted exactly what would happen with the Mets as the season wound down last season. So I want, you know what? I was also saying last year, Gino, if you don't remember, I'll remind you, Francisco Lindor should have been the MVP last year.
Okay.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's true because
I want to like the team that, how do you not like what Washington is doing this year? Even if you're not a Commanders fan, you got to be like, wow, that kid is special. Jaden Daniels is special. They're doing a lot of fun things. So, yeah, it's easy to root for. It's easy to root for Penn State when you watch a guy like Tyler Warren and you're like, whoa, this guy is going to be an animal when he gets to the NFL.
Funny how I was reading this piece. It's actually a good piece talking about like this NFL coaching cycle, talking about, this is up on ESPN, coaches that were fired, but what happens next? We don't talk about like what do coaches do. And talking about Dan Quinn, we look at Dan Quinn like, is that really a good coach, or did he just catch lightning in a bottle? He's a defensive guy, and putting defensive guy. And talking about this, well, he got fired by Atlanta midseason. So he has a home in Oahu. Okay, so he retreats to Oahu. Must be nice when you have that sort of wealth, right? And he actually got depressed in Hawaii, if that's it. But then after a few weeks, he snapped out of it, hired a consultant, Lauren Oakman, like, hey, tell me what did I do wrong? And they told him how to interview better, and then pays his time in Dallas, and then he gets He was almost like the afterthought in Washington, the second choice. But that's a guy, after reading that, I'm like, okay, I can pull for a guy like Dan Quinn. Somebody that, okay, we don't really value him as a coach, but he's done a great job this year.
Really didn't ever think he was a bad coach. Like, he got that Falcons team to the Super Bowl. They collapsed in the Super Bowl. But his methods of getting them there, I mean, it was a lot of kind of military discipline and the kind of hard-ass tactics that I think football players react to and respond to until they don't. And when they don't and the message becomes stale, then you're out of a job. And I feel like that's what happened to him in Atlanta, is that they couldn't recover from 28-3. His message became stale. And Atlanta's a bit of a dysfunctional organization.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I look at him and it's like, okay, what do you stand for? And we want to put these candidates kind of in categories. Pop quiz, everyone. John Harbaugh before he became the Ravens head coach, what was he?
I remember. He was a special teams coordinator, Philadelphia.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Not offensive, not defensive.
No.
That was completely out of the box. But Baltimore hired what they thought was the best leader of men. And it was a great hire, okay? And I would love to know some of these teams, what are they interviewing for? Like, don't go to the chalkboard. Tell me, how do you handle adversity? How do you deal with today's athlete? How do you build a culture? How do you build the staff? That's key, too. Yes, hiring the bright offensive coordinator, and sure, Joe Brady's going to get some talk, but is he a great leader at this point? It can work, too. See Kevin O'Connell. But what O'Connell did was he brought in a good staff, Brian Flores and others. Hire the best leader. I'm not saying anything anybody doesn't already know, but why teams don't do this, I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, when you look at what Dan Quinn did in Washington, too, also, you brought in Cliff Kingsbury to be your offensive coordinator. It's a guy that's head coach experience. He's an offensive-minded guy, and he's made the most out of Jaden Daniels' rookie season. So it goes beyond just the head coach. I think you mentioned it. It's who are you bringing in? How are you building a staff? I'm not excited about a guy like Pete Carroll interviewing with the Bears, but I think about it. What doesn't excite me about it is ageism. It's like he's just old. But the wealth of experience that a guy like that has and the track record of success where that is a guy who knows how to build a staff. That is a guy who knows how to change a culture. I should be more excited about a prospect like that than I am, except I just look at him as like, oh, he's just an old guy. He's the oldest guy in the league.
Yes, but Marv Levy used to have a joke when he talked to his players. Yeah, there isn't an age. There's not a generation gap between us, guys. There's a 2-generation gap between us. And for Pete Carroll, you be hiring somebody like that, and along the same lines, he's the same age as Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Armando Salguero, talk about fortuitous timing. He's coming up here at the bottom of the hour. Just posted on Outkick what he's hearing and the chances that some team would actually go out and try to get Bill Belichick. And I skimmed through it during the commercial break because Armando's coming. I'm like, oh, my gosh, he's got new content. We got to talk about it. But there was one key takeaway that I pulled out of this. Okay, so the buyout's $10 million. That's like a wide receiver 5 in the league.
It's chump change.
It is.
Yeah. If you really want him, you can get him. I would just say, if you really wanted him, why did you wait until he got a job to show any interest in him? I mean, were you that uncertain that Antonio Pierce wasn't going to be your head coach at season's end? You kind of know. Like, it's not going well. He needs to go. How many chances do you give a guy? And was that the guy that you really wanted in that position in the first place? If you're Dallas, today is the last day of Mike McCarthy's contract, right? It expires and they have the exclusive negotiating window.
Why are they doing it? No, you cannot talk to him, saying to the Bears.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, after tomorrow, he doesn't honor a contract. So.
Well, yeah, but they'll still have the exclusive rights to negotiate with him, and maybe we find out something about his future. I just get the sense that he's not going anywhere. I get the sense that Jerry, is playing this out the way he wants it to play out, and will hold his feet to the fire until the very last minute before he says, all right, yeah, we'll bring you back, but it's on these terms. Are you okay with that? I don't think Belichick's coming back, man. I feel pretty good about my box of wine. I'm going to crack that open here. It's on deck, and when I do, it's
Oh, you're the type of guy, and I remember this. This is when we first got to know each other, and we're in the fantasy football league, and you show up with the trophy, with ice, with the champagne,
yes.
and then
that's right.
Like if we get to
He's going to roll up like Ric Flair to that fantasy draft. Give me get me a blonde on one hand and a brunette on the other, and I'm going to wear my alligator shoes and my feather boa, styling and profiling. Gators on my feet, Rolex on my watch. You can't be the man, but if you want to be the man, you got to beat the man.
What you are going to do, I predict, is as soon as all the vacancies are filled and one of them is not Bill Belichick, you'll bring the box back in, you will crack it open, and then you'll taunt me for being cheap.
I'm telling you, Gene, I love that idea, and I'm actually going to do that now that you mention it. I hadn't thought about it. I was actually going to – I mean, that's pretty sinister and evil of you to even think that I would do that. But now I'm going to do it. Now I'm going to have to do it. Thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, that would fit your character. Just be like, want some of this bad wine?
Makes a lot of sense. Hey, thanks for getting this cheap wine for me, Gene. This is the best tasting wine. The Belichick Bet wine is the best tasting wine I've had ever. You mentioned Armando. He's on Outkick, and he just released that piece on Bill Belichick and NFL teams that might now have an interest in him. We'll dive a little bit deeper on that. We'll dive in the wild card weekend with Armando. We'll talk about some of these vacancies, and we'll get his take on the MVP race as well. Armando Salguero from Outkick, stopping by the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia next on The Fan.
You're listening to the Rochester, the Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Bills linebacker Terrell Bernard, good to go. This according to head coach Sean McDermott. Wide receiver Mari Cooper back at practice today. The one injury to keep tabs on, kick returner Brandon Codrington not practicing today. He's got a hamstring pull. McDermott on the Sean Payton offense.
Well, there's a lot of, intricacies to his offense. There's a lot of different personnel groupings used, and he does a great job putting his players in position. And as was mentioned earlier, with a two-dimensional offense, and they're tough to defend for a lot of reasons. One of which is what he's able to do from a play caller standpoint.
Bills favored by 8.5. Armando Salguero from Outkick joining us next here in the Sports Bar. NHL Calgary's game in Los Angeles postponed tonight due to the wildfires. Devin Levi, Isak Rosane named to the AHL All-Star Game. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
Straight up with no chaser. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Wildcard weekend on deck, coaching carousel, an MVP race. We're going to talk to Armando about all of it here in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia and our buddy Armando Salguero from Outkick, who's always gracious with his time to join us here on the Fan Rochester. Armando, can we start with the piece that you just went live with a couple minutes ago, talking about Bill Belichick and the prospects of him actually returning to the NFL? There can't be truth to this, right? He's already working UNC. What are you hearing and what's going on with Belichick?
Yeah, well, let's put it this way. I'm surprised that the first question wasn't Josh Allen MVP. Why not?
I don't know, Armando. I mean, if you want to take a walk on the scorched earth of the MVP conversation, we can start with that, and you can share with us why you voted for Josh Allen. We're not putting words in your mouth. Not putting words in your mouth. Wouldn't do that to you, buddy.
No, I appreciate it. If you want to talk about Belichick, the short answer is it's almost like not happening for sure. There's probably like a 5% chance that it might. No one is going to say to Bill Belichick, hey, come in for an interview and we'll see what we do. We'll see if it works out. We'll see if we like you. And he's going to say, okay, that's a smart idea. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, right.
And make a foof of myself in Chapel Hill. He's not doing that. It would have to be someone just saying, Bill, we're going to give you $20 million. We're going to pay your $10 million payout, and you're our coach. And then we're talking. But I don't know that any team is ready to do that.
Armando Salguero joining us before we get to the playoffs and the MVP. Sticking with these vacancies, which one is the most attractive right now, would you say, Armando?
I'd look at New England. I mean, they have a quarterback in place who is on a rookie deal, who is very promising in Drake May. Any scout that you talk to who has seen him play, any pro scout, by the way, who has seen him play, thinks his ceiling is, 50 feet high, not your typical 20-foot ceiling. It's 50. He is got everything that you want in a quarterback, including makeup, from what they're saying. And so put some talent around him, get him in a system that is quarterback friendly, get him in a system that the coaching staff is, capable, more capable than what last season's coaching staff was. And you've got something that I'm not saying that he's the next Josh Allen, but he would or could be, the second best quarterback in the division soon. And that's saying a lot because, Miami thinks it has a pretty good quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa. Moreover, they have like $120 million in cap space next year. So they have a lot of needs. They have, a ton of issues, but they've got a ton of cap space. They've got a rookie quarterback on a rookie quarterback contract. And, oh, by the way, they have a very high draft pick coming up, and 10 of them.
Armando, I wonder about who is that guy that's going to replace Gerard Mayo, and I think everybody automatically thinks, well, it's a slam dunk. It's got to be Vrabel. But how impressive is Ben Johnson going to be here while he has an opportunity to interview with these 4 teams this weekend? What are you hearing about Johnson, the teams that he's agreed to interview with, and what his prospects and his demands may be before he makes the leap from offensive coordinator in Detroit to head coach of an NFL team?
Ben Johnson is a quarterback Sherpa. He can guide guys from the wasteland to the top of the mountain, and he has done that with Jared Goff. And I realize Jared Goff was the former number 1 overall selection. Okay, so he didn't come from nowhere; he came from somewhere, and he also played in the Super Bowl. But we all understand that Jared Goff, when he arrived in Detroit, his reputation was a little bit sullied by the fact that no less than Sean McVay gave up on him and didn't want him anymore. And so you have that offense, and the things that they do are just pretty impressive. That I still, in my stupid time, I go back and replay their fake fumble, stumble play. I don't know if you guys saw that, where Goff acts like he stumbled and then fumbled, and everybody's chasing the fumble. And meanwhile, it's none of that. They're faking you out, people, and they're going to throw a touchdown pass over your head. So when you have somebody that does that, there's a reason why so many teams wanted him last year. He was reticent about doing a whole lot of interviews. He's more open to it this year. My guess is he's going to be the head coach probably in Jacksonville. That's not 100%, but that's my guess.
Armando, one move that happened where a coach is staying, but the GM is out. What did you make of the Titans, who now have the number 1 overall pick? Great spot to be. Ron Carthon is out. So whoever gets hired there, my gosh, they are on the clock. They have to learn what personnel department they're working for, hire people and everything. What do you make of the move the Titans just pulled off?
I'm not a big fan of shotgun weddings. And what I mean by that is oftentimes you see a team that brings in a general manager and a head coach, and then despite the fact that they are both linked and tied at the hip, despite the fact that they are making decisions collaboratively, one of them takes the fall and the other one skates. I think that's ridiculous. And now you've got the guy that stuck around. You've got to fit him with the next guy. And then if something happens next year or 2 years from now you're firing the guy that stuck around and you're keeping the latest hire. It's a bad way of doing business, I think. It happens a lot. It's happened multiple times in Jacksonville, and it hasn't worked. I don't think it's a good business practice, and nonetheless, teams are doing it, including the Tennessee Titans, who decided, Ran, we gave you a promotion last year. You had full run of the show. You had the roster. You had all the power. And it's all your fault. Goodbye. And the new guy who coached the team to the number 1 overall pick is having the number 1 overall pick good for a head coach. Only in April, because in September through January, it means you stunk.
Yeah.
It means you were terrible. And so that's what Brian Callahan and where he was, that's what he authored. And he's automatically next year, under the microscope. I'm not saying he's on the hot seat, but he better win a lot next year.
Along those same lines, I look at what the Bears have done, and their dysfunction this year was on full display. You've got a lot of promise in a quarterback at Caleb Williams. They've right now kept Ryan Poles as their GM. The search is going to be extensive. I can't help but think that when they interview Pete Carroll tomorrow, that a guy like Pete Carroll, with what he brings to the table, could look at a guy like Ryan Poles and be like, oh, yeah, I can work with this guy. I mean, is that the kind of move, if the Bears as an organization were to hire a guy like a Pete Carroll or even a Mike Vrabel, that you would bring in a guy who's a culture builder, somebody that has experience and would also say, I'm only taking this job if I can bring in my own GM?
I don't think Pete Carroll is going to say that because obviously, he wanted to keep coaching in Seattle and they got rid of him. And he wanted to coach elsewhere afterward, and nobody interviewed him. And this is his only interview so far this hiring cycle. So I think he understands that despite the fact that he's won a Super Bowl, won a couple of national championships, played in another Super Bowl, won a bunch of division titles, authored the Legion of Boom, and did all sorts of stuff, and has forgotten more football than anyone in the front office of the Chicago Bears knows. Despite all of that, I think he will be, coming in understanding that this might be your shot and your only shot this cycle, and you're 73 years old, and you better make it work, and you better sound, aside from the fact that you're super energetic and you know a bunch of stuff and you're super accomplished, you need to strike a chord of collaboration and being able to work with those guys, which I think he'll do. And frankly, if they hire him, they're going to be way better off than they've been for the last, I would say, 30 years.
Yeah.
Because since 1993, they have over and over and over and over through multiple administrations hired first-time head coaches. Wannstedt, Dick Duran, Lovie Smith, who was the best of the bunch, but nonetheless, Matt Eberflus. I mean, seriously, Matt Nagy. All of these guys came in to learn on the job. Pete Carroll has the job down pat.
We're talking to Armando Salguero. Armando is an MVP voter. So just to let everybody know,
there it goes.
We cannot ask you but I'll ask you the question this way. Just your thoughts on Josh Allen, because the Josh Allen we're seeing this year, how did he transform, Armando, to taking this step forward where he's not turning the ball over and he's spreading the ball around? Was it just as simple as, hey, get a full year of Joe Brady and maybe move that Diggs guy out and he's not in your head?
Josh Allen is the most gifted human being to play quarterback in the NFL, and that includes Lamar Jackson. Josh Allen does things that I mean, if you look at my Instagram right now, I put, or yesterday I think it was, there was a moment, I think a couple of years ago, where Josh Allen ran out of bounds and he had so much momentum going that he ran over the Dolphins sideline, like the benches. He hurdled them. And I said, this is what your nightmare in the AFC East looks like because of this guy.
Yeah.
That's the guy. So he is head and shoulders above everybody. I love him. And if you do a Google search on me and him, you'll find that in 2017, he went down to Miami and they lost his rookie year, and he went down to Miami, and on the last play of the game, he threw a pass.
We know this play.
That should have been caught.
Charles Clay.
It was exactly. But that game, he ran all over the place. He threw the ball all. Who knows? He's a crazy man, this and that. I wrote in the Miami Herald, this guy, this is what the future of the AFC East looks like. It's not Tom Brady. It's this guy. And that is a problem for everybody. And, oh, by the way, Ryan Tannehill was the Dolphins quarterback, and they had just paid him. And I said, this guy is 10 times the player that Ryan Tannehill is. And it's not to disparage Ryan Tannehill. It's just that the Buffalo guy's really good.
Well,
like, really, really good. Having said that, Lamar Jackson had a great year this year.
Yeah. Armando, we're in between the lines. Armando, appreciate you sharing your insight there on Josh and the way you talk about the Bills and the AFC East. You're there in Miami, so you have a front row seat to what goes on with the Dolphins. We could talk about we already talked about the Patriots. We could talk about the dysfunction that exists with the Jets. What about the rest of the AFC East here and what the future looks like, especially with Miami? Because, boy, hearing McDaniel talk at the end of the season, hearing Tyreek Hill say what he said, I mean, McDaniel doesn't have the same energy that I think we all kind of fell in love with as football fans. He was quirky. He was fun. He was funny. He feels like a beaten down man, and maybe it's just a matter of having a bad season, but between the Dolphins, the Jets, the Patriots, it feels to us at least that the Patriots are actually the team that is set up for the future to challenge Buffalo more soon in the future here.
100%. Because did we mention they've got $117 million in cap space next year, and that good quarterback named Drake May? Whereas the Dolphins, they are no longer on a rookie quarterback contract with Tua Tagovailoa. They're paying him $55 million a year, and he's injured a lot, and that's a problem. He missed, I think, 6 games this year, and they won one of those 6 games. Bill Parcells once famously said, the greatest ability is durability, and Tua doesn't have it. Plain and simple. And somehow the team that understood that Tua is not durable didn't really plan very well with their backup quarterbacks. At one point, they had Skylar Thompson starting for Tua, and at the end of the season, he wasn't on the roster. He was, up and down with practice squad and obviously not playing. And Snoop Huntley, who had been on the practice squad in Baltimore, was the starter. The final 3 games. Planning session way back in the offseason that said, let's pay Tua $55 million and not have anyone who's the least bit accomplished behind him. And, oh, by the way, in August, Chris Greer, the general manager, said, we don't think offensive line is that big a deal. You guys worry about it more than we do. And guess what? 2 days ago, he's like, oh, yeah, we got to address the offensive line because it was bad, terrible. So I don't know that I'm painting a full picture of the Dolphins because obviously they won 8 games, and so everything is not horrible. But, look, they're not in the playoffs, and Mike McDaniel sounds like death right now for a reason.
Armando, last one from me, and I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, how would you handicap the Bills here going into this postseason? And Bills fans, gosh, 13-second game, a loss to the Bengals at home. Last year, a missed field goal that would have tied it late. A lot of things have gone against Buffalo in these postseasons. What is it going to take for Buffalo here in what looks to be a really crowded field in the AFC this year?
Yeah, no, it is a crowded field. There's, a lot of good teams, as you just described. If the Bills are at home, and they are this week, then the Bills are winning. If the Bills are on the road, Detroit Lions, Josh Allen has to show up. That's the way it is. And by Detroit Lions, Josh Allen, I think he had like 5 touchdowns that day or something like that.
Yeah.
And they were just great on, well, I wouldn't say both sides of the ball, but both sides of the offense, the running game and the passing game. So that's how I look at the Bills. I would say the Bills and the Chiefs were very happy that Joe Burrow is, driving the Batmobile around Cincinnati and not driving his offense up and down the field in these playoffs, because he's been a pain in the neck for both of those teams. Other than that, I mean, there is one. Was the wrestler that said, to be the man, you got to beat the man?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
The man is Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones and Harrison Butker and so that's the man. Those are the people that you got to worry about ultimately.
Armando, is there a game specifically this weekend out of the 6 that you're more glued to than the others, that you find to be a little bit more of a compelling matchup?
I think we might have lost Armando.
30.
Oh, there he is.
Your line dropped out, Armando. Can you say that again?
No, I said the beauty of Wild Card Weekend this weekend is that there's a game at 4:30 on Saturday and there's a game at 8. So at 4:30, I'll be glued to that game.
Yeah.
And then at 8, I'll be glued to that game. And then on Sunday, 1 o'clock, I'll be glued to that. I don't have to jump around multiple games. They're coming at you one after another, after another, after another. And if you're sitting at home because you don't have a ticket to one of those games, it's like a buffet.
Yeah.
And I like buffets. I love buffets. Get me a buffet. and so I just love this weekend. This could be, did I mention that Monday night there's dessert in the buffet?
Mm-hmm.
It's just awesome. I just love it.
Armando Salguero, Outkick. You can read his latest piece that went up about an hour ago or so about Bill Belichick and all this chatter going on. What else, other than checking out your thoughts on the NFL, Armando? Anything else we can check out here from you?
No, I always appreciate being on with you guys. I'm going to be home this weekend rather than on the road, as I told Eugene and it's very cold here, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Exceedingly cold.
Yeah.
It was like in the 40s this morning, and it's in the 70s now. Brr.
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah.
Well, it's the 40s in our studio right now, so we can relate here.
Armando, you talk like that. I'm going to wish that Miami has that first-round matchup against Buffalo. You have to come here and cover that game and be here for that Dolphins-Bills game at Highmark Stadium in January, pal.
I'm taunting you guys. I'm just messing with you.
Well, Armando, it's great hearing your voice, man. Good catching up with you, and we'll be following along here as everybody gets ready for what we anticipate to be a really compelling and entertaining, as always, postseason in the NFL. Appreciate all your work, bud.
Always a pleasure, gentlemen.
You got it.
Thanks, Armando.
There's Armando Salguero. You can check his work out at Outkick. Love catching up with Armando talking the NFL.
Okay, so what he said there's only one possible team you'd have to play on the road. And if it is Kansas City, anything short of Josh Allen is best you're going to need. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
But funny how you didn't really talk. We hear view like, oh, boy, Baltimore, that's a big roadblock. But when we talk to P.J. Glasser, and he's down there, maybe that's part of the fan coming out. And he's nervous about Steelers, Ravens coming up.
Well, and even if Baltimore wins and the Bills win, Baltimore has to come to Buffalo. And if Buffalo is hosting, you're at Armando saying Buffalo's winning.
Yeah, and if it's the Chargers going to Arrowhead. Honestly, Danger, how did that last game end? It was a doink in for Kansas City beating the Chargers. That's a divisional matchup that I'm sure in Kansas City they would much rather have the Steelers come up there. So careful what you wish for. Like, either would you rather take the Chargers potentially knocking off Kansas City, but that would mean you'd have to get Baltimore? Or would you rather have Pittsburgh going there and you're going to get the rest leftover?
Yeah, I think if you're the Bills, you're not worried about any of it. You're obviously only worried about what you have in front of you in Denver, but you have to approach, and I think as fans, it's okay for us to approach this postseason as like, no, they're the best team in the NFL. They beat the Chiefs. They beat the Lions. They have the best player in the league at quarterback right now.
Healthy.
They're healthy.
They are healthy. When they were in Baltimore, not healthy.
If everybody that wanted to say like 13 seconds, like Maggie Gray said a couple of years ago, that 13 seconds might have been their best chance. No. I think this is it. This is their best chance. I don't know that you're going to get an opportunity to go in the postseason with a roster as healthy as you have right now. I mean, a lot of this comes down to luck, right? A lot of this comes down to luck.
Yeah.
You've got a healthy roster, and you've got a quarterback who's playing at an MVP level. That's enough. You should win. You should win these games.
I'm going to make a morose prediction.
Oh, Gino.
Well, like you're saying, all the right things, right? But there are some things out of control, out of your control and out of my control. But if the Buffalo Bills, if this ends up going down and it's a loss, special teams. It's one part of the game, and we're that has shown up from time to time, and certainly did against the Rams. So one play like that changed the game against the playoff team.
Well, I'll say this along those lines, not necessarily specifically on special teams, but the Bills this season have been very fortunate in their takeaways. Their turnover ratio.
Yeah, teams don't. These are good teams. They're not going to be coughing up.
That's right, yeah. And if you're dependent on getting that extra possession, on capitalizing on those turnovers like the Bills have been this year, and you don't get those turnovers, it changes the dynamic of the game. So really what I think it comes down to, and it's obvious and it's cliche, but it's turnovers for me. If you can get the ball away from Denver, you're winning that game. And you don't have to get a lot. Get a pick. Get a fumble. Win the turnover battle, win the game. Get that extra possession, you're winning the game with Josh Allen as your quarterback.
Danger, I know you know this. Armando said it. Who was the wrestler that said, to be the man, you got to beat the man?
Yeah, it's Ric Flair, baby. Yeah, Ric Flair.
Ric Flair.
He's the best. I was channeling him earlier. Yeah, of course I'm going to come in here with the box of wine when Belichick coaches his first game at North Carolina. And you're just going to enjoy it. I'm just going to savor it. What's the matter, Gino? Rolex on my wrist, Gators on my feet. I got a limousine parked outside that's a mile long with women just waiting to hear me say, woo!
You'll come in North Carolina gear.
We're going to take a break and come back with Happy Hour next. We've got a Bills injury report to get to. Sean McDermott speaking to the media today. And some back end of the roster movement here between the Bills and the Eagles, practice squad stuff. We'll get you updated on that. Some of the coaching movement that's happening around the NFL. Also a round of shots coming up here in the Sports Bar. Stay with us and join us anytime at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN.
You're listening to Danger and Battaglia.
Welcome back to We the Hobby. You know what time it is? A little something special today. Oh, Nick. Is that a corn? That ain't no corn. What? That's a super corn! Oh, wow.
Visit us at 23 Arlington Street in Rochester.
Streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Just a walkthrough for the Buffalo Bills today. The storyline, though, pretty much everyone was out there. Terrell Bernard, good to go. Amari Cooper, back at practice. The only guy not out there, kick returner Brandon Codrington, who's got a hamstring pull. Sean McDermott talking about the health of Von Miller.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly healthier, removed another X amount of months removed from the injury, and, that frees you up a little bit more. So, I just appreciate how he continues to take it one day at a time.
Bills and Broncos, you can hear the game Sunday right here, 9 a.m., for our pregame coverage. The NHL, Calgary's game in Los Angeles tonight postponed due to the wildfires. The NFL says they're monitoring the situation pending the game Monday night between the Rams and the Vikings. Devin Levi, Isak Rosane, they've been named to the AHL All-Star game. Gene Battaglia on the sports leader, The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
It's Wild Card Weekend as Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos come to Highmark.
Like I said, the challenge is a big challenge. Good football team with a Super Bowl winning coach and a team that's very talented across the board, all three phases.
There's a lot of things going in the Bills' direction in this matchup. They're rested at home. That place is going to be absolutely electric. So it's a good team, and you're not looking past them. It's all about this week. But I think the advantages are all on Buffalo's side.
Mike Danger.
There's definitely some threats. It's not as easy as what it would appear with the Steelers or the Patriots that we've had here in years past.
Gene Battaglia.
In the McDermott-Allen era, all these playoff games, is this the toughest opening opponent for Buffalo? And how do you see this playing out?
Yo, let's radio. Nice radio.
Nice radio. 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
It's happy hour in the sports bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us. Thanks for listening along. 95.7 FM, AM 950. You can watch the sports bar on a YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester. Like, subscribe, and comment while you're there. Put a little wind in the sails. We appreciate that. You can hear us where we sound our best. The free to download Odyssey app or your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. You can also reach out to us at 866-4FAN. Our lines are open at 585-866-4326.
Yeah, fun show. Always love our conversations with Armando Salguero. And, gosh, he had some really nice things to say about the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. Couldn't tell us exactly who he would vote for the MVP. He's one of the – they have only 50 guys.
Yeah.
Or 50 voters.
Yeah. You can read between the lines on I think, where Armando's vote went.
Mm-hmm.
Seems kind of obvious. I mean, Lamar is great. But what you saw Josh Allen do this season, some of the things you saw him do.
He lifted his whole team.
Yeah, against really, really good football teams. The Lions, the Chiefs, the Niners. I mean, like the performances against and down the stretch. He was magnificent. He's the MVP. I don't even think it's going to be as close as people think it's going to be. I really don't. I really don't. I think Josh Allen gets it this year.
Well, okay, let me ask you this, because what could sway things? Does Saquon Barkley get first? Oh, does he get votes? Not talking. It's you do first, second, third. Are people voting him number one?
I just think when you break down the actual definition of the award, most valuable player. So if he's not on the team, what does the team look like? And that's why I think quarterbacks are going to win this every year, right? Saquon had an unbelievable season. He offensive player of the year. Listen to that. He's not MVP. You still have Jalen Hurts. You still have A.J. Brown. You have really, really good talent on that team.
That's why you said, my gosh, look at these numbers that Shohei is putting up. It's not the most valuable stat guy. You take Shohei off the Dodgers,
that's why
they're still winning that division.
Francisco Lindor should be the MVP last year in the MLB because if you take him off that roster, what are the Mets last year?
Not a playoff team.
They're not a playoff team. If Josh Allen...
Oh, no.
Right? So there you go.
Top 10.
There you go. He is your most valuable player, and I don't even think it's really that close. You could make that argument for Lamar because what do you have behind Lamar? If Lamar is not out there, what does that mean? You still have Derrick Henry. You still have, you have stars on both sides of the ball. You don't really have that in Buffalo. It's Josh Allen, and I think, what everything Armando said, and if you missed it, It's on demand for you wherever you get your podcasts. You can find the Sports Bar. Just search us out, and you'll hear Armando's glowing comments on Josh Allen that date back to when we first started seeing him with regularity in 2017. He brought up the game against the Dolphins, the Charles Clay game that we all remember.
I remember Armando writing that piece saying this is going to be a problem. Yeah. And Josh Allen didn't win that game, but you could just kind of see the talent on display.
So many images from that game that I remember. I remember the throw being just short, but I also remember Clay should have caught it. I also remember Brian Daboll kind of like showing us then that he just doesn't have that presidential gene. He's an emotional dude. He like fell over on the sideline. He just literally collapsed, fell over like one of those Weeble Wobble toys.
So what's worse, doing that or taking your tablet and smashing it?
Yeah, right.
And like that must have been, yeah.
That was a memorable game, and even though it was a loss, Armando recognized, like I think a lot of us recognize, like, no, there's something special about this player. And we saw it throughout the course of that season. But that game specifically, it's like, oh, man, he did everything he could to get them that win, and it just wasn't enough. Get him some help, secure that line. I mean, we don't talk enough about how good the Bills' offensive line is. And if we're going to talk about Denver's pass rush, I'd say good luck. Good luck.
Well, that's the one thing. Like a lot of things we underestimated, and that was a real cause for concern to the point where it's funny when you're seeing names out there, names that we knew were on the team but we didn't discuss. That was a legitimate conversation we had in the sports bar. The Bills drafted Van Pran Granger, and he played at Georgia. Could he actually be the starting center? Like, no. Connor McGovern, they recognized all along, could not only be just fine in place, he actually is an upgrade over the guy that went to Jacksonville.
Aaron Kromer is a witch. He's an unbelievable coach, and he's done a great job. And more than anything, I think the Bills being healthy and the continuity that we have on this offensive line, the camaraderie that you have, they're looking out for each other. They're looking out for their quarterback, and the quarterback is looking out for them. It's been a lot of fun to watch here the last two seasons, and they've been consistent, and that's been a constant. And if you've got a great pass rush like Denver does, then I guess I would say good luck. Again, good luck, because they've been nearly impenetrable, not giving up a lot of sacks. It's when you get with guys with size, it's the Chris Joneses of the world, that's when I start to get a little bit nervous, because then you can maybe out-physical the Bills' offensive line. But it hasn't happened, man. I mean, it really hasn't happened late this season. They're on a good roll.
Yeah, and part of it is the balance. Like, this Bills team is run, like, along with the offensive line, they have this three-headed monster, and we all recognize the talents of these three guys. And while you were out talking yesterday with Matt Perino, and he was talking to a Bronco guy, but the thing the Broncos are susceptible to, and this is what Perino was saying, throws out of the backfield, tight ends. Like, those are the things that the Broncos are a little leaky at. So you could have some nice Ty Johnson plays or some nice James Cook plays. And we were talking to Michael F. Florio yesterday, who, by the way, I called him Michael F. Leone on the show, and, like, he just was a pro. He went along with it. But regardless, talking about, hey, the Broncos do give up, from the fantasy standpoint, they give up points to tight ends. So, yes, the Broncos do all this thing with their pass rush, but they can be had defensively.
Sure. Cody Rourke, who is the co-host of the Locked On Broncos podcast, will stop by the sports bar tomorrow afternoon at 4:25, and we'll get his take on this matchup between the Broncos and the Bills Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock. We'll also be joined tomorrow afternoon in the 3 o'clock hour. Dan Fates from 13 Wham Sports and Buffalo Plus stops by for his weekly chat with us.
Yeah, this is going to be just a lot of fun tomorrow night, kicking off this exquisite 5 nights of Penn State, Notre Dame, Texas, and Miami, and then we get to the 3 days of NFL playoff football. Interesting how I didn't think we'd have this. Certainly when you're talking about weather concerns, like, my gosh, everything happening in California now, but the idea that they're keeping tabs on the roads in Dallas, they're not moving this game, are they? Between
no, why are you worried? They brine the road.
Brine the road. What's that even mean?
That's the first time I've heard the word brine associated with road treatment. I've never heard that before. The statement from the Cotton Bowl on them brining the road around the Dallas area. The roads will be brined. And it took one of my old friends from my hometown in northern Minnesota to tell me, no, dude, get with the program. This is what we've been doing for years now, and snow and ice doesn't stand a chance when you've got a properly treated brined road. I'm like, okay, fine, but can we call it something other than brine? Because when I think brine, I think, are the roads in Texas meat all of a sudden?
Tasty.
Yeah. I want to be able to brine something and throw it on my smoker, but it's too damn cold to do it. So let's use a different word than brine. Can we just say we've treated the roads instead of we've brined the roads? Because now my mouth is watering, and it shouldn't be watering when I'm talking about travel in the Dallas Metroplex.
Yeah. The other thing the NFL is monitoring, the Rams and Vikings danger. I don't know, man. Where do you put that game if you can't go on Monday night? Arizona, perhaps?
Pacific Palisades are ablaze, and some of the images are terrifying. So we're certainly hoping for the best in this situation where I don't know how much of that is contained, if any, and it could get really, really ugly in the Pacific, on the Pacific coast there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just the fires, obviously. We're used to this. Like, if you have all the emergency personnel doing other things, providing the security for an NFL game might not be at the top of your list.
Correct. We'll keep tabs on that. As of right now, nothing has changed as far as the schedule for Monday night. But, yes, the Kings and Flames NHL matchup tonight has been postponed due to those wildfires. A look around the NFL. We can start with the practice squad of the Buffalo Bills. Safety Lewis Cine was plucked from the Eagles. The Eagles grabbed him today off of the Bills practice squad. And the Bills, in return, grabbed an Eagles linebacker and Tyreek Maddox-Williams. So a little practice squad swap between these two teams. Nothing really of note. Not a big deal either way. Lewis Cine is a player that when the Bills acquired him, I'm like, oh.
That guy.
Yeah, we haven't heard anything from him this season. Hasn't really been much of a contributor. So that swap happened earlier today. And aside from that, around the NFL, it's just a lot of requests for interviews and scheduling of interviews. And who knows when we'll get answers on when some of these coaching vacancies will be filled. It is interesting to note that the team with the number 1 overall pick right now is without a general manager.
That makes no sense. And I knew Armando would see it our way. Okay, maybe we decided that Rand Carthen isn't the guy. But number one, now you're going to hire a GM, but that GM is forced to hire a coach that, well, Armando called it shotgun wedding. But I'll also take it from this standpoint, Danger. You have the number 1 overall pick. You're going to bring in a GM, and you're going to work with somebody else's personnel department? Or the promoting from within. Maybe that's what ends up happening here. I think probably that's the most likely of scenarios. But now it's not like this is not a year, I would say, also to have the number 1 overall pick.
The thing that I think surprised me the most from our conversation with Armando is where he believes Ben Johnson will land. And when you connect the dots and you kind of think about it rationally, it kind of makes sense. I would think that Shad Khan would overspend for a first-time head coach.
He overspent for Urban Meyer for crying out loud.
Yep. You have your quarterback in place in Jacksonville. You talk about shotgun weddings. This would be an arranged, Trent Baalke's not going anywhere. He is the general manager, and I know that that's something that Ben Johnson has said. He wants his organizational alignment. Well, you've got your owner, you've got your GM. Can you align with the owner and the GM and be that guy for Jacksonville if you're Ben Johnson? Interesting that Armando put the Jags as the team that could land Ben Johnson.
I think it's plausible. The more I think about this, if Ryan Poles stays and you need just a guy with energy and that has won a national championship, get out of here with your NCAA, and that has won a Super Bowl, Pete Carroll should be the leading candidate for the Bears.
I know you're trolling me. You're trolling me.
What? Where else are you going to find a guy who, on his resume, won NCAA championship, won a Super Bowl?
I'll say this. As a Bears fan, I watched Ryan Poles' end-of-season press conference, and I wasn't impressed. I feel like this is a guy, he comes off as if he is in over his head. When you hear successful NFL GM speak, there's a confidence, there's a swagger. Brandon Beane is a good order, and he's He's got a lot of confidence. He's giving you the answers. And you know that there's truth behind those answers, but there's also a firm grip on reality around his answers as well. We've never had a conversation or heard a conversation with Brandon Beane where he doesn't come off with at least a little bit of swagger. Man, Ryan Poles came off, to me, as just beat down and in over his head. And I hate saying that because he's a Section 5 guy, and we want him to be successful. But I think for the Bears to be successful, they screwed it up. They needed to move on from him as well. And if they don't move on from him and they do hire somebody like Pete Carroll, I don't think they're going to hire him. But if they were to do that, they're going to eventually move on from him anyways, and the cycle begins all over again.
There's another storyline here, too, Danger, that you're just kind of ignoring. And, okay, Tom Pelissero, trusted source in the NFL, right? Tom Pelissero. Multiple NFL teams have inquired about whether legendary coach Bill Belichick would reconsider his move to college football.
Oh, stop.
Including I'm just reading this, including the Raiders, whose new minority owner, Tom Brady, spoke recently with his old coach.
He's not leaving. He's there. How bad would that look if you're Bill Belichick?
Did it before with the Jets.
Yeah, he was young, and he probably regrets it. He doesn't regret it because everything worked out, but I mean, after everything that he said and everything that he's done so far, he's recruiting right now. He's recruiting for his team. He's in Jersey. I just don't see that happening. Now, Armando put it like, maybe there's a 5% chance that it were to happen.
Well, and he put it that you're not going to bring him in. So, these teams, they're required to, and most kind of just, hey, we're talking to so-and-so. You're not going to see, oh, my gosh, Bill Belichick is talking to blank team today. No, they're not going to put him through those paces. What the owner would do is, we're going to pay you $20 million a year. We're going to set the record. Don't worry about the buyout. We'll take care of that as well. And in his piece, Armando just points out $10 million buyout. Think of all the failed contracts basically in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
Yeah, there's a lot of owners paying for coaching mistakes and continue to pay for coaching mistakes. We haven't talked enough, or maybe you did yesterday. Rex Ryan and the Jets.
Oh, gosh, yes. Fantastic. I wonder how that went today. It seemed like Rex Ryan was doing his interview through the media. Was he not going on the radio in New York and talking about brash things and saying, oh, Aaron Rodgers, we're going to end this country club right now. Here's my take, Danger. It's you get Rex in front of Woody, and the question I can't answer is, what is Woody Johnson like? Is he a guy when he was in his younger years got back together with an old girlfriend? Because that's what it would feel like, right? You'll remember all the good times, and you'll forget why you fired the guy. But Rex, as a salesman, Rex with, you talk about swagger, he's the king of swagger. Sure. But I would just, my first question in the interview would be like, tell me what staff you would put together. You've been out of the league. Get this, Danger, since 2016.
Yep.
Like, what staff would you put together?
And when we last saw him in 2016, was he not an unorganized mess of a head coach?
Dude, he was a buffoon. He was a buffoon.
Right.
Rex is a buffoon.
So you're going to hire that to be your next head coach? That's going to solve your problems?
Jet fans would eat it up. And
I think smart Jet fans know better. I think smart Jet fans would be like, yeah, no, this ain't going to work. You get excited because of it'd be hard not to get excited because he'll get you excited. That's what he does. He can get you fired up about what's coming. He's a showman. He's a buffoon. You're right. He's bombastic. But he's not organized. He's kind of a mess as a head coach and didn't win anything in Buffalo. Few nice seasons with the Jets a long time ago, and I can't see how that works. I cannot see how that works if the Jets go in that direction.
If Rex were really serious about this, you mean to tell me that in these years since Buffalo let him go, that there wasn't a team that would have taken him as a defensive coordinator?
He wants to be a head coach.
Well, you want to be a head coach, keep yourself in the game.
Dan Quinn.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is another name that's out there, and because they're on a bye, he's allowed to interview with teams. The Jets and the Raiders both requesting to interview Steve Spagnuolo of the Chiefs defensive coordinator, who was a head coach, just not a good head coach.
what did he have at quarterback at the end, though, with the Rams? That's where I always okay, was he a good head coach with a good quarterback, or was he just – I always kind of look at that and have to kind of – but can you grow as a coach? And name me – I'm sorry, Bills fans, love Bobby Babich, but name me a better defensive coordinator in the NFL today.
Then Spagnuolo?
You can't.
I don't think you can.
No, so why wouldn't he be a serious candidate? He develops corners. They don't they're always up against the cap. It's not just Patrick Mahomes there. He does a fantastic job. Now, kind of would he be a fit with any team? I always thought, Danger, that everybody would have thought Belichick back to the Giants, but Spagnuolo had some good years as the Giant defensive coordinator. He would have fit in that market had the Giants made that move, moving on from Dable.
Yeah, and looking at that move, I know that might be seen as the guy doesn't have a winning record. I think the Giants are doing the right thing by holding on to those two. I give them another offseason to kind of try to get it together.
Well, it's not an offseason. Here's why. You're going to draft a quarterback, I would assume. You're high enough. You're 4. You have enough ammo to move up and get your guy. I would expect Cam Ward to be a New York Giant, actually. All right, then you're going to they're not going to win next year. So it's not just next year. That's 2026 with Brian Dable, too. That would be a mistake if you're going to draft a quarterback and then blow it all up after 1 year.
What teams do that? I've never heard of such nonsense. Really? That happens in the NFL where teams draft quarterbacks as a rookie and then they fire their coach and their offensive coordinator, not even at the end of the season, but in the middle of the season? That happens? Really?
I love this consulting firm, the Team 33 or whatever it is that the Jets are. It should just be me and you. We'll charge a fraction of that. We can tell you the whole process. We'll line up the interviews for you. It's not we solved all the problems here in the world.
Well, didn't I see that that firm that the Jets hired is run by Rick Spielman.
Yeah.
And his brother, Chris, who's with the Lions, is interviewing for the GM. Okay, fair. I'm sure he's qualified. I'm sure, you could point to, hey, he's been a big part of the culture that they've built in Detroit. Okay, great. I'm sure there's no conflict of interest there at all. None.
Mm-mm.
None at all. No nepotism, no conflict of interest.
Nothing.
Robert Saleh interviewing with the Jags. Also, the Niners moving on from their defensive coordinator, Nick Sorensen. So if you want to connect dots there, easy to see. Robert Saleh potentially going back to the Niners as their defensive coordinator with that opening, but I would say not so fast. The Niners have Brandon Staley, another former head coach, on that defensive staff that could be elevated from within if they choose to.
Yeah, and I looked this up. Saleh and Bulky just missed each other in San Francisco.
Okay.
So they're certainly familiar with. In fact, Saleh, he actually did a stint earlier in Jacksonville. So Shad Khan already knows Robert Saleh before he became the Niners defensive coordinator.
All right. I think we got you caught up on the coaching carousel for today, some of the main lines from today.
Other than Josh Allen was asked about Joe Brady, and this is why I think Josh Allen has underrated comedic chops.
Oh, he's got charisma. He'll be hosting SNL.
As soon as the spring, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, if they win the Super Bowl, he's hosting SNL.
Yeah.
No question about it. Yeah, because he's got charisma, and he knows how to work a room, and he does. He's got a good comedic timing. He's a funny dude.
Yeah, so he was just asked the softball question. And by softball, it's like, hey, Joe Brady's getting interviews. What are teams kind of getting in him? Nothing. Teams should stay away.
Yeah. Don't talk to him.
Don't talk to him.
Leave him alone.
You don't want to hire him.
He's a bad dude. Bad man.
You missed that yesterday where that became like a running joke on social media where everybody's like, then, kind of along the lines of Hunter Pence kind of jokes like, oh, yeah, I heard he once, stole my newspaper or something along those lines.
All the bad things that Joe Brady did. Yeah. That's fantastic. And, we know that he's been requested for a couple of interviews. He's kind of busy this week. So we'll keep tabs on that as well and hope we don't have to answer any questions about whether or not Joe Brady is going to be with the Buffalo Bills.
But again, how he's getting all these interview requests, and I would assume that you only have time for a Zoom. This is why the process is flawed. Like Joe Brady's going to miss out on being a head coach if the Buffalo Bills get to the Super Bowl. This is kind of a fact. I think.
We got to get to a round of shots next in the sports bar.
All right, I'm going to try to sell you on why the NBA is going to be good tonight. We will get you updated on that. A surprise signing in the in baseball, a player going to a different team here. An honor for Section 5 coach, and some outdoor games in hockey coming up in unusual places.
Don't forget about last call before we close up shop at 6 o'clock. You can pull up a stool at 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326.
You're listening to the Sports Bar.
Welcome back to We the Hobby. You know what time it is? A little something special today. Oh, Nick. Is that a corn? That ain't no corn. What? That's a super corn! Oh, wow!
Visit us at 23 Arlington Street in Rochester.
update.
Bills linebacker Terrell Bernard, good to go. This is according to head coach Sean McDermott. Wide receiver Amari Cooper back at practice today. The one injury concern, kicker returner Brandon Condrington did not practice today. He's got a hamstring pull. McDermott on the Sean Payton offense.
Well, there's a lot of intricacies to his offense. There's a lot of different personnel groupings used, and he does a great job putting his players in position. And as was mentioned earlier, with a two-dimensional offense, and they're tough to defend for a lot of reasons. One of which is what he's able to do from a play caller standpoint.
Bills favored by 8.5. Our pregame coverage Sunday will begin at 9 a.m. here on the Sports Leader. NHL tonight, Calgary at Los Angeles postponed due to the wildfires. Devin Levi and Isak Rosane have been named to the AHL All-Star game. Gene Battaglia in the Sports Leader, the Fan, Rochester.
The best local sports talk in the Flower City. One Bills Live in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Weekday afternoons on The Fan, Rochester.
It's time for a round of shots in the sports bar.
Yeah, if you're down on the NBA, and that seems to be kind of the cool thing, right? Kick the NBA while they're down. May I suggest tuning into this matchup tonight, OKC Cleveland. The Cavs are 31-4. They're just the 8th team ever to start out winning 31 of their first 35. New coach Kenny Atkinson has a core group of Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, and Darius Garland. They missed a combined 89 games last year, but now they're all healthy and they're all fun to watch. They push the ball up the floor. 38% of their shots come within the first 9 seconds of the shot clock.
9 times.
Cleveland's won 10 in a row, but then Oklahoma City, they come in having won 15 in a row. They're at 30-5. That's at 7 o'clock tonight on ESPN.
The wildfires.
This is the story that is going to kind of continue.
Yeah, I saw Kawhi leave.
Yeah, so let's start off with the Lakers here. So we have the Lakers and their head coach, J.J. Redick. He and his family, they live in Pacific Palisades, which is right now on fire. That was kind of the epicenter of this. 30,000 residents as of this morning. They were under evacuation orders. More than 13,000 structures, again, as of this morning, were under threat. Officials have used the word unprecedented to describe these fires that are out of control. You mentioned Kawhi Leonard, and I'm kind of torn on this one because Kawhi Leonard, the announcement, he's gone back to Los Angeles to be with his family, which, okay, sure, any of us would do that, but hold on. What about the rest of those Clipper players? I mean, they're not concerned. Tonight they're playing in Denver. I mean, that must be the easiest bet on the board. Like, bet Denver. Like, where are these Clippers players? Where their heads going to be in the game tonight?
Yeah, that's a scary situation. We brought this up. I can't remember if it was late last week, early this week. J.J. Redick and the beef between J.J. Redick and Chuck.
Yeah.
And I found the quote that J.J. Redick was talking about. Like talking about, he's basically saying like the talking heads are being a little bit more critical of the game that he loves and he would like. And, their complaints are that the game is unwatchable, that it's hard to watch the NBA because everybody's just chucking up threes. It's not a great product right now. These guys on inside the NBA, it's Charles Barkley, it's Shaq, it's Jet. And so when he was asked about his future with the Lakers, J.J. Redick said there's a scene in Band of Brothers where they're in the trenches, and one of the soldiers who's really scared asks the other guy, how are you able to go out and fight? You don't seem scared. And he says, it's because I'm already dead. When I took this job, I already died, Redick says. So I'm well aware of this profession. It's not even on my radar. I'm already dead. That's the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, and he's right. That's like the best self-awareness. Like, how self-aware are you when you look at Frank Vogel, who did a good job, Darvin Ham, who were both hired and fired, Vogel leading them to a championship with an asterisk in 2020, fired in 2022, Ham getting them to the conference finals in 2023, fired in May. He's dead. He's dead. He can't win.
Yeah, no, and look, you go into that knowing what the outcome may be. One thing we didn't talk about, the angle here for the Rams and Vikings, and again, the NFL has said, hey, they're monitoring the situation. I recall how this was not this past summer, but 2 summers ago, it was June, and we were kind of in this plume of smoke, and there's a couple days like, man, you can't breathe out there.
You could smell it.
How are the Rams going to practice this week?
Oh.
They didn't today being their off day, because remember they play on Monday night, but they're scheduled to resume practice. They got to leave town, and you got to leave town. You're worried about all your family, everything. This is, where it was like, oh my gosh, the Rams. This is going to be a good matchup.
Yeah, the wildfires could put a wrinkle in a few things there in Los Angeles. We had the Kings hosting the Flames. That game postponed in the NHL tonight. You got Kawhi leaving to be with his family. And you got what's going on there with Reddick and others. I mean, we're hoping that everybody's safe. You got friends that are in the area that are sending me pictures.
Yeah, I have a really close friend that it looks apocalyptic. I'm stumbling over that word. Just terrible right now. And as for the Rams, they are in Woodland Hills. So that is 13 miles north of Pacific Palisades. But you have the Santa Monica Mountains. But then again, in Santa Monica, the Santa Monica itself has been evacuated, and now they're evacuating Pasadena as well. They're around the Rose Bowl there. So
scary stuff.
Yeah, terrible. At 42 years old, Justin Verlander has a new team. Signs a 1-year, $15 million deal with the San Francisco Giants. Now, Verlander battled through shoulder issues last season in Houston. He just went 5-6, 5.48 ERA. But it was really bad in September, where his ERA for that month was above 9.
9 times.
So bad the Astros left him off their postseason roster. Had Verlander reached 140 innings last season, well, then his option would have kicked in for $17.5 million, which would have been fully paid by the Mets. But now the Mets are in the clear.
Oh, that's good for the Mets. A little bit of good news for the Mets. I just can't believe how much more the Mets have spent this offseason than every other team. The gap between what the Mets have spent and everybody else, man. For your sake, I hope it works.
Listen, if you and I had unlimited resources, wouldn't you do the same thing if the rules permitted? You can't do that in the NFL, of course, but baseball, yeah, just go do whatever you want. Yeah. Every NFL team gets to nominate one high school coach for the Don Shula High School Coach of the Year Award. This is the national award, and the Buffalo Bills nominee comes out of Section 5. Brighton head coach Steve Leon, who I consider a friend. The Bruins last year won Class A, the award given to the traits that Don Shula exhibited: character, integrity, leadership, dedication to the community, commitment to player health and safety, and on-field success. The NFL will choose one winner from each conference, and that'll be announced the week prior to the Pro Bowl.
See, you consider him a friend. I don't think I've ever had the chance to talk to Coach Leon.
This was during the pandemic, and I was doing a lot of streaming, and his team was knocked out, and we ended up doing a bunch of games together. And then I realized, oh my gosh, his wife for a long time was the lacrosse coach at Nazareth. Okay. I'm like, okay, so this is just kind of a coaching family, if you will. So, and kind of, we got to get Brighton on the schedule next year.
Oh, yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
That would be fun. So the NHL announcing that they will stage outdoor games in 2026 in Tampa and in Miami. The Tampa Bay Lightning will be the home of the Bucks, and the Panthers.
Oh, who cares?
will be played where the Marlins play, which
who cares?
The Marlins never play outdoors. They always have the roof closed.
I just hate talking about the NHL playing outdoor games.
We're over it, right?
In Florida.
Oh, who cares?
Like, okay, the bit is done. You've absolutely murdered it. I don't think it's going to get us interested no matter where you have it. Play it on the sun. I don't care.
Less than 1 million tuned in for the Winter Classic this year, and
it's embarrassing.
Yeah, no one tuned in. It's not that the Blackhawks are any good, but the novelty is long gone.
Yeah, we're going to play it at Wrigley Field, where we played it a few years ago. Like, it's done. You've gone every place you can go for an NHL game outdoors. Stop. I know you want to make it a better made-for-TV product. You are what you are. I'm sorry.
By the way, it's not. I don't think it's good for TV.
I think it sucks on TV. It's a crap product. Regular games are better than the outdoor games. We can all agree on that, right? The outdoor games on TV don't look right. It's even harder to watch, in my opinion.
You're too far away.
Yeah.
You can't find the puck at all.
Right. So that's a giant Francesa for me that they're okay. You're going to do outdoor games in Florida. Yay. Good for you.
Are you already making up your 2025 Francesa?
For sure.
Yeah.
Where are we going to play? Oh, we got to let's expand. We're going to play games in Mexico. We're going to follow the NFL's template. Let's do a game in Brazil. Get out of here. I don't care if you're playing it on the surface of the sun and you somehow are able to get a sheet of ice. Stop. I'm done. It's over with the outdoor games in the NHL.
Finally, from last night's Lightning game in Tampa, where the scoreboard showed the fan messages, and this is always like, hey, happy birthday to so-and-so. This was different. Josh, I think we're better off as friends. Thanks for the Bolts tickets, though, Rachel.
Yeah.
The question everyone is asking, was this real? And if who's this lowlife Rachel?
You know what? Rachel might not be a lowlife, but maybe Josh just got put in the friend zone. He just didn't realize it. Josh is a nice guy. He's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. He's looking at Rachel's just she's advantageous. She's taken advantage of her opportunities that are presented to her. If I had to guess, I'd say Rachel's probably a 7, and Josh is likely a 3.
I think if you get put in the friend zone, move on.
Well,
there's plenty of other.
The problem is Josh is a nice guy.
Yeah,
Josh can't move on because he's a nice guy, and she's got him strung along, and he's such a nice guy. He gives me tickets. I'm sure he wants something in return for these tickets, but you know what? You're a good friend. So she's probably like a 7, and he's probably like a slee stack.
It's everyone is trying to figure out, was this really a troll job? But then okay. Spoiler alert. You see sometimes these things, and I've seen this thing on a million times on shows from me. Like, oh my gosh! And you see the Chicago Bulls mascot walking off, against. That's not real. None of it is real.
No.
So what's the bet? Like, really, somebody put that up there?
Hey, Rachel, 866-4326. Give us the real story. 585-866-4FAN. You didn't talk anything about Fox Sports yesterday, did you? With Terrible Take Timmy? Did it come up in shots?
Yes. We had the follow-up, and the follow-up, well, there were a few. One being, did you see who defended Skip Bayless? You did not. Stephen A. defended Skip Bayless.
Oh!
You know why he defended him? He said, I know for a fact he couldn't have done this because the man is incredibly cheap. If you're not familiar with this story, this is just very salacious. This lawsuit, former hairstylist who was brought in to work at the FS1 studios and doing the show Undisputed, and Skip Bayless being sued along with Fox. And one of the allegations, again, it's just an allegation, that Skip Bayless offered this woman $1.5 million. I love how he landed on that, allegedly, to have sex with him. And it would change her life.
Well, if I understood it correctly from what I heard, and I only kind of heard a little bit of this in my feed, saw a little bit of this in my feed, was she going through cancer treatments? And because she was going through treatments, she was going to be facing some financial hardships.
This which makes it even worse.
Right. Oh, really? Well, hey.
I'll change your life.
I'll change your life.
Wow, what a horrible person.
Right. No, the Joy Taylor stuff is the things that are being alleged of Joy Taylor. I mean, at minimum, you're talking about a hostile work environment. Don't these people get the training that we get? I mean, I feel like we're so well versed and well trained in what a proper work style or work life should be. How is this still happening? Do they not get the videos, the long training modules?
Yeah, that's another thing. There's an executive that is allegedly having a relationship that's inappropriate with Joy Taylor, and then Joy Taylor was allegedly having a relationship that was inappropriate with Emmanuel Acho. What's going on?
This is unbelievable.
What does Colin Cowherd think of all this? He's been quiet. He's staying out of this, not saying a word.
If that's what's happening at Fox Sports, what the hell is going on over at ESPN?
Well, you would have thought, because ESPN was this cesspool, and I read the whole article, like that was just as bad as it could have been, and they cleaned it up. You would have thought. Also, the NFL Network. You remember Warren Sapp?
Oh, yeah.
Like, no,
they got rid of everybody.
Like, why did you think this wouldn't? Whew, you live in your own bubble and you behave in your own way. Like, boy, oh boy, you know. And you could say, boy, this lawsuit. And I love Portnoy, who says this is all fake. How do you know? You can't possibly know if this is true or not.
We always try to do here in the sports, where we reserve judgment, let it play out, and maybe there's some truth to it, but not all of it is true. At minimum, it gives off the impression of a hostile work environment. At minimum.
At minimum. And then kind of the lesson here, it's like unfortunately for those involved, this is going to stick to them.
Yeah.
They could be all cleared, and they're like, oh, well, we'll always think.
Right. Joy Taylor set back women broadcasters by at least a few decades.
But, again, it's a different era. You know which ESPN personality was suspended for 6 months for sexual harassment? We never bring this up. Mike Tirico.
Yeah.
Tirico.
I remember that.
He got a second chance, and look at him today. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Fun show this afternoon. Appreciate you checking us out, however you do so. We're in the free-to-download Odyssey app. That's our home online, AUDACY. We invite you to download the app. We also make ourselves available to you on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is The Fan Rochester. Like, subscribe, comment. Love engaging with you there. Love engaging with you on Twitch and on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. If you missed Armando Salguero from Outkick, if you missed PJ Glasser, the host of Send It In on the BetQL Network, you can get both those conversations wherever you get your podcasts right now. Find the best moments from the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Wherever you get your shows, just search out the Sports Bar and you'll find all of our work there. Tomorrow on the show, Dan Fates stops by the Sports Bar, talks some Buffalo Bills from 13 Wham Sports and Buffalo Plus. And Cody Rourke, co-host of the Locked On Broadcos podcast, joins us at 4:25, and we'll learn more about the Bills' opponent coming up here Wildcard Weekend Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock. Have a great night. We are back again tomorrow starting at 3 in the Sports Bar. JR Sport Brief next on The Fan Rochester.
You're listening to the